is R2C2H2 Artists. You are watching We All Be TV. News free Dixie for the 21st century. Can you dig it? And welcome, family, to another wonderful, infiltrating, edutaining edition of We All Be Radio. That's news-free Dixie for the 21st century. That's right, boys and girls, scholars and laymen, ladies and gents. Tis I, Brother Ron, bringing you the good and bad news and in-between news on We All Be. It's great to be back on. Have a special guest. The Honorable Judge Joe Brown, send Brown downtown. Send Brown downtown. You're going to be on. Had to actually postpone the show an hour because I had to pick up my car. Got my baby back home. Baby back home from the car shop. Had a couple of tries. They had to work on like 3 or 4 more times to get it right or get it close to right where I can have some peace of mind. No, this year is a very interesting year. It reveals a lot about people. Either going to be very patient or very impatient. But trying to side on the side of patience as I navigate, or as we, me, myself, and I navigate through what is known as 2022. Nothing is surprising. Anything can happen. Anything you think can happen can and probably will happen. That's the type of year it's been for a lot of people. I was talking to a lady at the car shop, the office manager, I believe. She was talking about how she's not a doomsday prepper, but she do grow her own food. And she was talking about the benefits of growing your own food. She grows her own potatoes and tomatoes. And she was talking about how she saw the news, a farmer from Texas. I just came from Texas. He was talking about he owned like thousands of acres of land. And he's a wheat grower. He grows wheat. But he said that they've been having such a bad water issue down in Texas. A lot of drought going on in Texas. In the heartland, Texas, deep in the heart of Texas. So he said they had a real bad drought. Okay, I hope y'all can hear me. He said my mic was unplugged. But he was talking about the farmer in Texas got thousands of acres of land. They're not getting enough water for this year. So you think it's going to be bad? You think it's bad this year with the inflation, with the eggs and the bread and the gas and the rent is too, you know what, high, man. High hell, man. But think about how it's going to be next year around this time for the people here in America. The fact they've not grown enough wheat. But, you know, Russia ain't have no problem. Russia in the middle of a war, and they making record profits over in Russia. But over here, man, we're going to be struggling. So y'all keep that in mind. You know, it could always get worse and probably will get worse before it get better because people are still too comfortable right now. You still got your Wi-Fi. You still got your air conditioner. Still got your P-Valley and Yellowstone and all these bread and circus distractions to keep you preoccupied with dealing with the reality of what we're facing. See, a lot of us got the we got the grasshopper mentality. We are a grasshopper nation. Used to be an ant nation. You didn't pay the ant what they deserve as far as their wages, but needed ants to build the infrastructure. Now we got a grasshopper mentality, and we're going to pay for it when it comes winter. But think about all the stuff going on. I know I have a friend. We got a reunion coming up at Washington University in St. Louis. I'm a John B. Irvin scholar, alum. John B. Irvin was the first black dean at Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. Y'all call it Missouri. Some of y'all call it Missouri, but I call it the state of misery. Bobby Dick Gregory's from St. Louis, Sumner High School. Shout out to Sumner High School. But she was talking about how she might not be going, but I said, you know what? You should go one last time because I know a lot of us OG alums we think about not going, but a lot of them said this is their last go around. And I said, you know, a lot happened since 5 years ago. You know, we lost a lot of people associated with the program. Not a lot, but some key lovable people. Dean Adrian Glore, Mrs. E, Dorothy Elliott. They gone, and they were like, you know, when I was there, they made it feel like family. You know, it's a PWI, predominantly white institution, but it had people like Dean Glore and Mrs. E. They made you feel like family. Like it was like, you know, they your mom's away from home. So they really like the power of a Black woman to make you feel at home, to encourage you to be the best example of yourself. We lost all of them within the last 5 years. Now, Dean John B. Irvin's widow, she's still going strong. Miss Jane Irvin, she turned 100 years young this year. She's 100 years young. I don't know if she's going to be around in 5 years. Hell, I don't know if you know, it's so many people, man. I have lost so many people over the last couple of years, young and old. You know, people, even high school classmates. A lot of the men in my high school class are dropping dead. The women are going strong. The women, like I said, Brandy Evans, Mercedes, P Valley, she's a classmate of mine. But the women are, some of them getting final with wine. Some of them look better than they did 20-something years ago, actually. You know, you're going to have some with the wheels fall off and all that, but it's the guys that are, a lot of us are dying in that class, like, you know, natural causes. Even though I had a classmate committed suicide. He was a police officer. Was a cool guy. Didn't know you don't know what nobody's going through right now. So I would try to be patient with people, whether it be in the service industry, whether it be in your family. Just try to be a little bit patient and forgiving, not only towards people, but also towards yourself. Be more patient and lovable towards yourself, so you can practice that with other people. Because a lot of people going through it right now. Like I said, we'll have the judge on shortly. And you know, July 16th this weekend, I had a chance to attend the Ida B. Wells birthday celebration at the Ida B. Wells Plaza, which is on Beale Street. It's right next to First Baptist on Beale, historic Black church where Ida B. Wells, I believe, was a member. I believe she also had a newspaper office at one point in that church, the Free Speech and Headlight. Here was a Black woman that not only was a journalist, but she on her own media platform, which is like, you know, that's amazing in the 19th century, considering that she was born into slavery. So this Black woman, not that far removed from the plantation, from the Civil War, was able to own her own media operation in the Deep South or the Mid-South. I know y'all got different definitions what the Deep South is. This area is normally known as the Mid-South, and some of you smart Alex like to call it Midwest adjacent. No, it's the South, baby. It's the middle of the country. You know, it's the distribution hub, Memphis is. But they had a 160th anniversary celebration at the Ida B. Wells Plaza on Beale Street. If Beale Street could talk. You know, I'm an Ida B. Wells super fan. She's one of my Black History dream girls. I just love me some Ida B. I knew she would fall in love with me because she's a Cancer. The Cancer women love me. Something about these Cancer women, I just drive them crazy sometimes. That's be good and bad. But Cancer women go for me. And Ida's definitely a Cancer, July 16th, 1862. I wish I was friends with Elon Musk. Give me some money, do some stem cells, or get a time machine, or go to CERN and, you know, mess with the vortexes and stuff. And y'all that know, y'all know. But what was interesting, when they were breaking ground on the second phase of the Ida B. Wells Plaza, it was basically like, it was like a press thing to notify people that they're working on the second phase of the Ida B. Wells Plaza. They unveiled the statue, her likeness, last year on her birthday. And the family, the descendants of Ida B. Wells participated in that. And it was hot hot as hell. I thought I saw the devil jaywalking on Beale Street. It was so damn hot. And, you know, they had a bunch of ministers on the dais on the program. So we was there almost in the hot sun for almost 4 hours. But it was hot. Surprised somebody didn't drop out of heat stroke. But this year it was hot as well, but it was a shorter program, about less than an hour, really. But what grabbed my eye, and I want to talk to the judge about this as well, when they was breaking ground, they had some. Let me show you. Matter better yet, I could show you better than I could tell you. This is from the A.L.L birthday celebration and phase 2 groundbreaking. I'm going to show you some footage that I took courtesy We All Be News. Some of the people that's on the board for the committee for the A.L.L Plaza. And some of these people are politicians and ministers and stuff like that. Somebody's going to show you what I'm talking about. And I'm going to ask you, do you see what I see? So this brother Ron, We All Be News Free Dixie for the 21st century. I just want to see, this is from the A.L.L birthday celebration on Saturday. Breaking ground on phase 2 of the A.L.L Plaza project, which should be finished by November. And We All Be plans to be on the ground to get more footage. Because I know a lot of y'all asked me, would I be covering it? And of course I'm going to cover it because I'm an A.L.L super fan, man. So we're going to show you this. And then I'm going to say, do you see what I see? Okay. This is Brother Ron. We All Be News Free Dixie for the 21st century.
Count of 3. Push the shovel in, get a full shovel, and turn it over. 1, 2, and 3. Push it in and turn it over. All righty, there you go. Now, I want chairman of our Shelby County Historical Commission to take a shovel.
Did you see what I see? Or saw? See, that's A.L.L, right? They're breaking ground on A.L.L Plaza for phase 2. These are some prominent, shout out to Dr. Lasimba Gray and the late great Dr. Marion DaCosta Willis and other folks for having the vision to manifest this amazing reality of honoring A.L. See, it's been 130 years ago. This year, they ran A.L out of Memphis. Now, when I say ran out of Memphis, I'm not saying that she was a coward, because somebody became offended by the words ran out that I said, but this is well documented. They destroyed a newspaper office while she was out of town. Thank God she was out of town. I believe she was on the East Coast touring or whatever, doing her thing. But the white lynch mob destroyed her newspaper office and said that she ever stepped foot back in Memphis again, she was a dead woman walking. Now, A.L she used to be packing. She was a pistol packing mama. She just carried 2 guns on her at all times. She said, if I got to go, we all got to go. If there's a hell below, we all got to go. We all be in it together. So A.L used to carry some guns on her. She believed in the Second Amendment. She was a proponent for the Second Amendment. She believed that the Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every Black family home. If the law is not willing to provide protection, let that gun be your talk back and protection. You understand? You know, they said the Winchester rifle is how the West was run, how the West was won, excuse me. You know, because it could repeat so many times without reloading. It could just fire and fire and fire. It was repeating rifle action. But luckily she was out of town. And also, did you know that a lot of people thought she was a Black man writing these editorials in her paper? Because she signed her paper out with A.L.L. I don't know how they get what A.L.L means. That's a man's name. But my great-grandfather was named A.L.L. And his son that we know as Junebug was called A.L. Jr. So I had a man in my family named A.L. So I guess you could name a dude A.L.L, but they thought she was a man, not because she looked like a man, but they didn't know who her identity was until after the fact. So thank God she was out of here. And she actually went to Brooklyn before she settled in Chicago. But y'all noticed the flags around the groundbreaking? They had flags. You see them, what color them flags was? My mom talking about, oh, this is Rainbow Push Coalition. Those Jesse Jackson flags. Nah, those are the alphabet people flags. And I was trying to figure out, I said, what do Ida B. Wells, who was married to a Black man, who was a supporter of Black masculinity and Black manhood, she loved strong Black men. Her father was a strong Black man. Where that Ida B. Wells Museum at in Holly Springs, where she's from in Mississippi, her father built that home. He was a master carpenter and a pillar of the community. Her father built that home on the property where she was born as a slave. Think about it. You got tornadoes and all types of elements of Mother Nature coming through Mississippi. They had a real bad tornado come through Holly Springs several years ago, and that building's still strong. You got buildings built within the last 20 years selling out of cardboard paper or something like that. But anyway, what do LGBTQIA got to do with Ida B. Wells? Ida B. Wells never claimed, they didn't call it LGBTQIA back in the day. You hear your so-called queer people back then. As far as I know, Ida B. Wells never talked about her sexuality in that way of playing on the same team or being in the same game. So why are they tying this rainbow agenda to the legacy of Ida B. Wells? That would concern me. I talked to some of the organizers and some of the participants on the board. They didn't know what was going on. They said, "Ron, we just as surprised as you are to see no rainbow flags." And like I told my mom, that's not Rainbow Push Coalition. That's not Jesse Jackson Rainbow Push flags. That's the sex agenda flags. All right. And I'm not knocking that, but last month was Pride Month. I call it Black Music Month still, but last month was Pride Month. So why are the rainbow flags? Why are they trying Ida B. Wells? Are they trying to make Ida B. Wells a queer hero now? The LGBTQIA icon? How they gonna pull that off? See, they keep on changing the narrative. They're always using black folks as the Trojan horse for their agenda. We're weird people. Because like that plaza costs a lot of money to build. So whoever signed them checks probably say, you know what, since I'm signing the checks, since we signing the checks, we're gonna put these rainbow flags where they don't belong. And there's no disrespect, but how can you tie by Ida B. Wells to that agenda? How is that possible? How we let people get away without chin checking these people? And I'm not trying to throw rocks and hide my hands and nothing like that. I believe the people that's a part of that committee, they're good people. They're very passionate about preserving Black history. But how can you preserve our history, our narrative, when we don't control it? So I'm just trying to get an understanding, and hopefully I'll have an answer. Why did they put rainbow flags on a groundbreaking event for Ida B. Wells' legacy? What do Ida B. Wells Barnett got to do with the LGBTQIA agenda? You know, they unveiled the Mary McLeod Bethune at the nation's capital. I think that's the first Black person to be in that hall. I went to that hall 10 years ago where they keep that rotunda of the heroes. I guess you got heroes from every, or sheroes from every state. So they unveiled Mary McLeod Bethune likeness in that building. And Mary McLeod Bethune, she's one of our greats. I know y'all have issues with her being a part of that Negro Project with Margaret Sanger, but a lot of our revered icons are complex. And it doesn't dismiss the fact that this woman stood down the Klan and started her own HBCU. She stood down the Klan and started, because a lot of these historical Black colleges and universities were not started by Black people. Booker T. Washington did not found Tuskegee. The state of Alabama started Tuskegee, and they appointed Booker T. Washington to lead it. And lead he did, and they got rid of him, the powers that be. And that's another story that you can find on We All Be. But she stood down the Klan and built that school that exists to this day. And she was part of Franklin Roosevelt's Negro cabinet, but she also assisted Margaret Sanger. She was the only one. W.E.B. Du Bois was a part of that Negro Project. Some of the ministers, prominent ministers in the Black community. Hell, they even interviewed Malcolm X. Malcolm was interviewed by Planned Parenthood. They wanted to know how could they advertise advertise to the Black community. Yeah, even Malcolm was approached by Planned Parenthood. And also, it's very complex. So you look at the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, who's from Georgia, brought land from the Klan. And he also invited George Lincoln Rockwell, the leader of the American Nazi Party, to Savior's Day events. He allowed him to speak at Nation of Islam functions. You know, some of Marcus Garvey's biggest supporters with the Klan. The Klan was a powerful force back in the 20s, 4 million strong. The biggest Klan state was not Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia, it was Indiana. The governor was a Klansman, and they were brought down in a Me Too incident. See, the most powerful Klansman in Indiana, probably in the country, was a guy named D.C. Stevenson. And he ended up raping this white lady who used to be his girlfriend. He raped her, bit her. He bit her like Marv Albert bit that lady in the hotel room. But like he was like a rabid dog. He bit her all over her body, bit her on her chest, her face, her legs, ankles. And she tried to kill herself, but she ended up dying from complications from staph infection from him biting on her, and also from her trying to kill herself. She died some days later, but she identified him as the person who raped her and assaulted her. And he was held responsible for her death, but he ended up snitching on everybody. He did what Nino Brown wanted to do in New Jack City. He snitched on everybody. He brought down the whole Klan. They were 4 million strong back in the 20s. Then there was like a couple 100,000 by the time he got through. And look it up. Look it up. Take a look. It's all online. Then you had one of the Supreme Court justices who was very influential in the Brown v. Board decision. Hugo Black was a senator from Alabama. He was a Klansman. But he said he joined it for political reasons. And he repented. He confessed and laid it at the altar. And he became a crusader for civil rights, I guess. But anyway. But yeah, what do the rainbow got to do with Ida B. Wells? That is fascinating. It just blew my... And nobody could give me an answer. The people that I respect, but that means they're not really running the show. If they don't know why those rainbow flags were placed at an event honoring Ida B. Wells, then that means they're not really the ones running the show or signing off on the checks. In the words of Fred Hampton, answers that don't answer. Conclusions that don't conclude. Oh my God. Yeah, I couldn't believe it, man. I saw it. I don't know, man. The world is a fascinating place to live. And I'm not homophobic. I'm not transphobic and all this other crap. I'm just trying to heighten the contradictions. And I'll play it again to bring that point home. This is not about hate. This is about love and understanding. We don't, black folk, we give away everything and ask for nothing in return. Give away everything and ask for nothing in return. And that's our legacy as a people. As great as we are, we don't know our greatness, don't know how to ask for anything. But I want to play that again. Y'all tell me if I'm tripping. This is the Ida B. Wells Plaza Phase 2 groundbreaking ceremony. These are some prominent people involved on the board to commemorate the legacy of Ida B. Wells. This is on her 160th birthday observation, Saturday, July 16th, 2022.
Push yourself in, get a full, settle, and turn it over. 1, 2, and 3. Push it in and turn it over. All righty, there you go. Now, I want...
Like I said, this is not about hate. This is about love. Love thyself. Love thy neighbor. Love thyself. Love thy neighbor. So, so they co-opting the legacy of Ida B. Wells, I guess. They try like she was a feminist. Ida B. Wells was not a feminist like people trying to make out to be. Even her relatives, she's a feminist. She wasn't a feminist like that. She didn't try to destroy black masculinity. She was an advocate for black men being men. She believed in the black family. She knew that black family matters. When her parents died of yellow fever, she stepped in at the age of 16 to raise her brothers and sisters on her own. So she knew the importance of black family and staying together as a family. And she was a promoter and advocate for masculinity. She was not a feminist. Feminism that people talking about has destroyed America. Where you don't value the man at home or having a say in the family or in public affairs or not. Nah, that's not, she wasn't for that. Matter of fact, there was a women's suffrage convention down in Atlanta. Ida B. Wells' mentor was the feminist icon Susan B. Anthony. Frederick Douglass was, I guess, an earlier supporter of feminism. I guess he was a feminist. I don't know. But I do know that his second wife was a white woman. He married his secretary, who was almost the same age as his daughter. He had his children by his black wife, who helped him get out of slavery and raise a family. But he get lonesome. And so he ended up marrying this white woman who was like almost the same age as his daughter. But Susan B. Anthony and the white women didn't want Frederick Douglass to attend that convention down in Atlanta, even though he supported women's rights for decades. And the reason, because of him being married to a white woman, it might offend the sensibilities of the Southern white women. So Ida B. Wells got into, she got into Susan B. Anthony's grill and stood up for Frederick Douglass being there. You know, when they was marching on the White House for women's rights back in the 1910s, Ida B. Wells is probably one of the most famous and recognizable women in the country. They were treating her like a second and third class citizens. They said you can't march with the white women in front. Ida B. Wells was more accomplished than most of the white women there. And she was born to slavery. And she did all these things. She owned her own newspaper. One of the co-founders of NAACP, started, I believe, the first kindergarten for black kids in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, one of the first black female social workers in Chicago. I think she was the first woman in the state of Illinois to run for any type of state office. I could be mistaken, but what I'm saying is she had the credentials and the pedigree for black excellence, because greatness was in her DNA. And for her to be disrespected by her white peers, it's an insult. I mean, she was before Rosa Parks. She stood her ground. She was before Irene Morgan, because on her, I mean, no disrespect to the righteous ancestor Irene Morgan, she wasn't the first freedom rider. She was not the first freedom rider. Go back to Ida B. Wells back in the 1880s, refusing to remove herself from her seat on a train. Won the case, won a $400 million. I mean, so which was for, she won a $400 settlement in the lower courts, and the Tennessee Supreme Court overturned it. But she won at first, and they overturned her $400 award or whatever settlement. It was $400, not $400 million. But I don't believe Ben Crump was representing Ida B. Wells in court either. Ben Crump was around. But she was an amazing woman, but she challenged that just before Plaza v. Ferguson in 1897 or 1898. Plaza v. Ferguson was either 1898 or 1897. But she did that back in the 1880s. That's a black woman by herself. And Ida, and I'll also, if y'all Ida B. Wells fans or want to learn more about Ida B., read her in her own words, get her autobiography, and also read her Memphis diary that was edited by Dr. Miriam DaCosta Willis, who was a friend of mine who passed away. Beautiful lady, great historian, first black professor at the University of Memphis. But she edited Ida B. Wells' Memphis diary. Ida B. Wells, she married kind of late for that era. She married actually in her 30s. She got married by the time she was like 32 or 33 to an older gentleman, a black lawyer from Chicago who's well off and really admired her and supported her, and they had a whole bunch of kids together. So she got married late, but she, you know, you think about Ida B. Wells being this strong and confident person, but to read her diary to see how her insecurities and, you know, she was worried about having enough money. She would borrow money from Robert Church Sr., who was the first black millionaire of the South, whose daughter was Mary Church Terrell, a phenomenal black woman, one of the first black women to get a college degree in the country. He used to lend Ida B. Wells money. He was a benefactor, her sponsor. And she had worried, like, will she ever be married? Because, I mean, she's in her 20s, and people looking at her like, Ida's kind of weird because she ain't married yet. And, you know, what's going on? She's like, she talked too much for a woman. She got these ideas, all these opinions. She'll never be married. So, I mean, she had them type of fears and stuff. But she never talked about being in love with no woman in her diary. So what is this LBGQ thing going on with the Ida B. Wells legacy? We got to safeguard our heroes and sheroes, man. I mean, I could see it was Bayer Rustin Plaza. If they had, okay, this is Bayer or Bayer Rustin Plaza, we're going to have the rainbow flags on the groundbreaking. That make much sense. That make more, or even James Baldwin Plaza. Now, Dick Gregory told me that James Baldwin was playing gay. He was hustling white people. This is what Dick Gregory told me a lot of stuff that I would never had aired on my show with Baba Dick Gregory. But a lot of stuff he said, it seemed like it's off the wall, is actually true. But he told me that James Baldwin was acting gay. He wasn't really gay. Some people think Lil Nas X is acting gay, but I'm not here. I'm not trying to find out either way. That's his business. That's his bread and butter. That's his hustle. But yeah, this is not Buyer Rustin Plaza. This is not James Baldwin Plaza. This is Ida B. Wells Plaza. Okay, Judge is on his way. Judge is on his way. And this is what people got to learn. I know people invite Judge on. Judge is really much in demand. Learn how to build up your game, your mouthpiece. Cause a lot of y'all be having dead air. Y'all know what y'all doing. No, be yourself. Be yourself. Judge is an interesting cat. I have my own perspective on things, but he gonna join us shortly. He's making his way. And but yeah, thank y'all for tuning out. Like, I've been uploading old shows. It's kind of like it's weird because the Emmett Till thing is really on my mind. The ghost of Emmett Till and all this other stuff. And like, I'm always before my time, man. Like, I did stuff 10 plus years ago. Now y'all catching up to it. But I recently uploaded some interviews I did concerning the weird, strange fruit case of Willie McGee. Willie McGee was a black man who was put to death May 8th, 1951 in Mississippi for allegedly raping a white woman. Now, he said to the day he died, it was a consensual affair. Like, she got caught, so she said it was rape. Even when the prosecutor, before he actually was executed in the traveling electric chair, the prosecutor went to him, offered him some whiskey, and said, "You could tell me the truth, man. I mean, you about to be dead. You know, Supreme Court won't hear your case no more." Because he had 3 trials. And surprisingly, he had a couple of stay of executions from the Supreme Court. Hugo Black, who was a Klansman who became a Supreme Court justice, was key in staying his execution. One of the key members of the court that did that. Even the Mississippi High State Court helped in overturning. He was found guilty every time. 3rd time being a charm. But they knew that his civil rights was being violated. And anyway, the prosecutor had a last drink with Willie McGee. He asked Willie McGee, "You have sex with her?" He said yes. But then Willie McGee allegedly told him, according to his son, that she wanted it just as much as I did. And the Willie McGee case is interesting because you never hear about no white man being put to death for rape in this country. But there are many cases of black men being put to death for rape in this country. You would go to the Martinsville 7. Y'all look up the Martinsville 7 out of Virginia. These were 7 young black men in their late teens and early 20s were put to death because they said they allegedly gang raped a white woman. She said from some of the sources she was raped by as many as 13 black guys. It's like some Central Park 5, Scottsboro 9 stuff, right? But the state of Virginia recently exonerated these guys or pardoned them because of due process. See, when you get a pardon, I hate to say the word exonerate, they were pardoned because their civil liberties were violated. They didn't get due process. Like, it was a kangaroo court like they did Bill Cosby, but you put 7 young black men to death. That's the Martinsville 7 out of Virginia. But Willie McGee was interesting because his case became an international sensation. You understand? You had people like the great Paul Robeson, the great Josephine Baker. You had Albert Einstein. You even had William Faulkner, a native son of Mississippi, standing up for Willie McGee. Even the Vatican got involved. They tried to get the White House, Harry Truman, to do the right thing and commute his sentence to at least life in prison. But this is back in the early 50s, man. This is crazy. But they killed him nonetheless. He was just 35 years young, from my understanding. But I did 2 interviews back in the summer of 2010. One was with his granddaughter, Brenda McGee Robinson, who's out of Vegas. his family, see, Willie McGee was married. He had 4 children. And his wife divorced him in 1946, and they moved out to Las Vegas. So his granddaughter was on a mission to find out more about what happened to her grandfather. His granddaughter was. And she did an NPR special, 20-plus minute special back in 2010. And I found out about it. I interviewed her for about an hour. Then I interviewed author Alex Hurd, who's originally from Jackson, Mississippi, a well-respected magazine editor and journalist. He wrote a book called The Eyes of Willie McGee, where he spoke to the daughters of the alleged victim, Willette Hawkins. Willette Hawkins maintained that she was raped. She ended up dying in a car accident or from complications from a car accident back in the 60s. I believe her husband was also involved in the car accident. He died a couple of days after his wife. She was in her 50s. But he interviewed her daughters. He actually interviewed the help, the black maid that used to work for the Hawkins family. They both were interviewed decades later. Now, the black maid said nothing happened, that their mama was crazy, that she was delusional, that she had mental issues. She'd be hallucinating stuff. And so the daughter said, nah, he raped my mama. He raped my mama. But she said, nah, he didn't do it because I was gambling with Willie McGee the night before. See, the timeline, like the OJ thing, is all about the timeline. But people said he was gambling. He didn't rape nobody. But, his thing was he was working at I don't know, it was a moving company or some type of company. He was like a handyman, and he took advantage of the company truck, whatever. So he was joyriding in that, from my understanding. And allegedly, he had a friend with him, but the friend said he dropped him off around a certain time. I'm just looking at the timeline. Allegedly, according to the alleged victim, Willie McGee snuck into the home some type of way. Her husband was like 30 feet away, fast asleep. And he snuck in and put a knife allegedly to a 3-month-old baby and said, you better do what I tell you. I slid up from ear to ear or something like that. So allegedly, he pleasured himself on the woman. And people found out. And she said it was rape. He said it was consensual, that they were actually did this on a regular basis. Like, it's a case that Thurgood Marshall covered that was made a movie about with Chadwick Boseman playing Thurgood Marshall. Actually, a pretty good movie. It came out a couple of years ago. Goldie Hawn, daughter, played the love interest who cried rape, and a brother from St. Louis played he played in what, This Is Us or whatever. What's his name? I think his name like Brown or something like that. Last name Brown. But anyway, he was the guy that was accused of raping a white woman. And Thurgood Marshall took the case. And he won. He proved that it was a consensual relationship. So Willie McGee said it was consensual. And I met a white woman from Laurel, Mississippi. This is where it happened, in Laurel, Mississippi. Laurel, Mississippi produced Lee Tone Price, one of the great opera singers of the 20th century, a black woman. Mississippi produced some phenomenal people, black and white. But anyway, the white lady told me her name was Miss Chapman. She probably dead now because she was old then. She was real old then. It's like over 10 years ago. I hope she ain't dead, but she said, well, Ron, she said, I'm going to tell y'all something. Blacks and whites in that town knew that Willie McGee was in a consensual relationship with Willette Hawkins, but it was taboo. Because a lot of times the black folks said it was a consensual relationship. The white folks said it was rape. But this is a white woman that said that she knew it was consensual. Said Willie McGee was a good-looking man, So it was interesting talking to her because she actually spoke out at the book signing of Alex Hurd. That's how I met Alex Hurd. If you look at the thumbnail, that's a bigger version of me with Alex Hurd at that book signing. So I want y'all to check out those interviews that I recently uploaded to We All Be with Alex Hurd and Bridget McGee Robinson, the granddaughter of Willie McGee. So there's a lot of history we don't know. It's like what Harry Truman said, the only thing new is the history that you don't know. The only thing new is the history that you don't know. So yeah, but I'm trying to figure out what this is a rainbow agenda with Ida B. Wells. Because it got me, y'all, and I got some surprises coming through as it relates to Ida B. Wells' legacy, as far as from my perspective. And I also like to say the Emmett Till thing is weighing heavy right now. I'm going to do a couple of shows about Emmett Till. A lot of people that are making their names and doing the work, they actually did shows with me when We All Be 10 years ago, 10 plus years, like Keith Beauchamp. I think it's Beauchamp or Beauchamp. He's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I think it's Keith Beauchamp. He actually did the documentary about Emmett Till. They had the FBI reopen the Emmett Till murder back in the early 2000s. He was real close to Emmett Till's mom, Mamie Till Bradley, who actually died on January the 6th, 2003. So we're thinking about January 6th now. And she actually died January 6th, 2003. But he interviewed her for hours. He also interviewed people who were still around, who were involved in the Emmett Till case, including some of the witnesses and other people. And it was a good documentary. It's on YouTube. So the FBI reopened the case because of that documentary. So, there was a grand jury back, I believe, in 2007 down in Mississippi that was looking to charge Carolyn Bryant, I guess, with something as being an accomplice or somebody involved in the Emmett Till kidnapping and murder. Carolyn Bryant Dunham is the only one still living in terms of connected to J.W. Malum, her brother-in-law, and her husband, Roy Bryant, which was J.W. Malum's health brother, whatever. She allegedly was there that night at Mose Wright home, Emmett's great uncle, and identified Emmett. Because Mose Wright, I don't know, people are like, this is weird because it's Mose Wright or is Moses Wright? I don't know, but is the prices right? I'm gonna say Mose Wright. Mose Wright identified, or he said he heard a light voice, like a woman's voice, identified Emmett. So who else could identify Emmett who had a woman's voice but Carolyn Bryant? Because her sister-in-law was not there. According to the sister-in-law, she said she wasn't even there that day that Emmett allegedly did something or wolf whistle at Carolyn Bryant. She was somewhere else. So it had to be her because the FBI even interviewed her. And what the state is trying to say, if the FBI or the federal government ain't bringing charges against her, then we can't. But y'all can bring charges. Y'all trying to use it as a cover. That the FBI said, well, statute of limitations, but they could bring charges because they issued a warrant for Carolyn Bryant back in the 50s. They never served the warrant. But then you could, like, according to legal experts, you could at least charge her for manslaughter. Hell, they got Edgar Ray Killen, Preacher Killen, who was involved in the killing, the kidnapping, and lynching of the 3 civil rights workers. They got him back in 2005 on manslaughter, I believe. He died in prison. He was in his 80s in a wheelchair on an oxygen tank. They got Byron De La Beckwith for killing Medgar Evers. He was in his 70s in poor health. Shit, hell, they got Bill Cosby. They ain't care about no Bill Cosby. He's in his 80s. They put him in prison for about 3 years. So what makes her different? You understand? I heard too that allegedly the previous governor of Mississippi, Phil Bryant, was her nephew by marriage. But he was a little baby when the Emmett Till thing happened. So I remember I looked at his Wikipedia. They said they were related. Then they changed it. Somebody scrubbed it off. Because I screenshot that Wikipedia. So yeah, the governor of Mississippi at the time, his name Phil Bryant, I believe, was related to Roy Bryant, one of the Emmett Till alleged killers. But he killed, they confess. But man, this stuff is so deep, man. Because you had a black prosecutor back in 2007. She used a grand jury. They did not bring charges against Carolyn Bryant, but evidence was not shared because allegedly some of the jurors thought that she was a battered woman. She was not a battered woman. Because it's an FBI agent that interviewed her around the time. She never said that she was abused by her husband at the time, Roy Bryant. I believe she said that he had a temper. I'm going to try to get the FBI agent on here to talk about it. But he said that the memoir that was leaked to the media holds new evidence because a lot of contradictions what she said in the memoir versus what she said years ago. Even if you go back to the 50s where they interviewed her testimony is totally different than what she's saying now. A lot of contradictions, but white folks are always trying to hide their hand and protect their own. You got Nazi war criminals being dragged out the nursing home in wheelchairs in their 90s and 100s, being tried and put in prison for the rest of their lives. What's left. So I don't understand why people got an issue with her dying in prison. Y'all try to kill Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was in prison when his prison had a high number of COVID cases. He was trying to get early release, at least under house arrest. They kept him in that prison. They didn't care about him having a compromised immune system and being blind and facing the possibility of dying from COVID. But Bill Cosby surprised all them MFers. He surprised them all. And so, yeah, but the Carolyn Bryant, if they want to do it, because I was involved in a case down in LaFleur County. How long ago was that case? Like over 10 years ago, the Frederick Jermaine Carter hanging case. Found this black boy, Frederick Jermaine Carter. He's about 26 years old, hanging from a tree in a white affluent neighborhood in Greenwood, Mississippi, by the Tallahatchie River where they pulled Emmett Till's body out of. And USA Today covered it. The Nation of Islam Final Call covered it. Like on the front page of the Final Call, they had a picture of Frederick Jermaine Carter hanging from a tree and a white man with a beer belly gathering evidence, a pot belly gathering evidence at his feet. And the Nation of Islam actually helped organize his homegoing in Sunflower County. Now, Frederick Jermaine Carter was from Massachusetts, but his people from Mississippi. And so his mom moved back to Mississippi. He was living with his mom and stepfather, Llewellyn Evans. Allegedly, was on a painting gig on that Wednesday, that week. Friday was December 2nd, I believe, in 2010. But on Wednesday, he was on a painting gig with his stepfather. His stepfather went to get some supplies, left them at the location of their gig. He claimed that he came back and Frederick was gone. Stepfather then said that he called the sheriff department and notified that his stepson was missing. Here's the thing. They found Frederick Carter's body on Friday, December 2nd, 2010, hanging from a tree in a white affluent neighborhood down in Greenwood. Greenwood is like night and day. Like, they actually got a track that divides the town from a racial point of view. You could tell which is the wealthy side of town and which is the poor side of town. And all go across the railroad tracks. That's the town where Stokely Carmichael did his famous or infamous Black Power speech in a park in Greenwood, Mississippi. That's the place where Robert Johnson was poisoned, allegedly, by a jealous club owner because he was screwing his wife, allegedly. And so the coroner down there said he was dead for at least a day or 2 days, for 24 to 48 hours. Now, they found his body hanging from that tree. Back where they found his body at is a dog kennel and also a bike trail or walk path where people just walking, jogging, riding their bikes. So it has a lot of human activity. That morning on December 2nd, on Friday, 2010, nobody saw a body hanging from a tree. By afternoon, his body was hanging from a tree. But the coroner said he'd been dead for at least a day, if not 2 days. The painting gig was on Wednesday. He disappeared that Wednesday. 2 days later, they found his body hanging from a tree. But he was dead for at least a day, if not 2 days. But he wasn't hanging from the tree that morning. But they ruled it a suicide. They ruled it a suicide. So I'm like, nah, it don't make sense. I interviewed the coroner. I interviewed Sheriff Ricky Banks. He's been sheriff there for for almost 50 years. He's been sheriff for that long time, because when I interviewed Sheriff Ricky Banks, Andy Griffith theme song, the Andy Griffith Show theme song started playing on his TV. I can't make this up. And I said that the stepfather said he called the sheriff department to let y'all know that his stepson was missing. He said, we never got a call from Llewellyn Evans. We never got the call. But he said it. He said, well, we never got the call. So I said, okay, interesting. And I even interviewed the guy y'all try to get the bring charges against Carolyn Bryant, the DA, Dwayne Richardson, I believe his name is. So he's been DA for a long time down there. He's a young black guy, because he was in his 30s when he became a district attorney, whatever he is. And even he was trying to pass the buck. He wasn't serious about pursuing anything to Frederick Jermaine Carter. You understand, there's been a lot of black boys and men been found hanging in Mississippi from trees and other places since 2000. There's a lot of unsolved. I mean, there's so many cases. It's like, it's weird because a lot of times these people be hanging from trees in white neighborhoods. One dude recently, back in 2018, he was hung from a tree at his white girlfriend's house. I believe the stepfather had something to do with it because his family sued the stepfather in civil court and was awarded $11 million. Now, he ain't got nothing to probably piss his pants in. I mean, or piss a potty in. I don't know if he got $11 million. It's like, whatever, he backwoods dude. But he was sued, and it was a judgment awarded to the family of $11 million. I doubt they collected one red Lincoln penny from this white dude. But witnesses said that he had told his stepdaughter, that he was going to kill that guy. People say he actually pulled out a gun on the dude. And that he actually pulled out a gun on a couple of black guys that dated his white daughters or stepdaughters, allegedly. Has a history. He don't like black people. But he got mixed grandkids or step grandkids. I don't know. But anyway, the boy was found hanging from a tree at the white girlfriend's baby mama's place. And people say they heard things going on because the stepfather acted like he just hanged himself from the tree. But yet they found grass on his hair and on his body, meaning that somehow he was on the ground. Somebody wrestled him to the ground. The police and the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation ruled it a suicide in a matter of moments. The girlfriend called the mama, the baby mama, the white girl, called the mama rushed. She was so distraught when she heard the news of what happened, that he was hanging from a tree, that she crashed her car into a ditch. But luckily, her friend helped her get it out the ditch, and they continued on their way to find out what had happened to her son. So you got a lot of cases like this. I mean, I talked to a gentleman, older gentleman. He was dating a white girl down in Jackson, Mississippi. He said that she lived in a place where black folks said you don't ever want to go there. It's like one of them places you might go into that neighborhood, you may never come back out again. So he beat her up or something. He got into a fight with her. She called herself trying to challenge him. He put her in a place. Somehow, she was trying to drive him to that place where black folks say you don't go. You leave them people alone. So I don't know. He jumped out the car or something like that. But it's just weird. I just hear stories from elders that tell me about black guys that were involved in interracial relationships getting done like the brother who got done in 2018, allegedly by his stepfather. But yeah, that Frederick Jermaine Carter case, they say it was a suicide. That's it. And I actually looked into it, did a second autopsy. Nation of Islam allegedly paid for a second autopsy to see what happened to him. And the results were never made public. Now, it was me, actually. I started calling around the different departments in the state of Mississippi to find out what was going on with Frederick Jermaine Carter's autopsy, because he was dead and found him hanging from a tree in December. And this was about March of 2011, right? So it's been several months and momentum has died. Everything went quiet. First, you had USA Today on the scene reporting that they found a black man hanging from a tree in Greenwood. Within 48 hours, they told me it's a suicide. But then I told you, the coroner said he'd been dead for at least 24 to 48 hours, but no body was hanging from the spot where they say he killed himself at that morning of December 2nd. So I actually got a chance to leave a message, I believe, with the medical state examiner office. It was a new guy, Dr. A.L.L Shaker. He was an African. He was a Kenyan and Egyptian mix, but he was a world-renowned forensic scientist. He was called in to examine the mass graves over in Iraq, courtesy of Saddam Hussein. So he was a well-known forensic scientist. He just started working for the state of Mississippi back in the fall of 2010, I believe, October. So he was backlogged. He had all these cases that were backlogged because his predecessor was very corrupt. So he actually, from what I get, was an honest broker. Because when I talked to him, was the same day he dropped the results of the autopsy in the mail for the family. And he told me it was a hanging that needed to be investigated. He didn't rule it a suicide. He said, I did not rule it a suicide. I said it was a hanging pending further investigation. By him being honest like that, it cost him his job. He lost his job by the end of the year. He lost his job. So I mean, he ended up going to Alabama. I don't know where Dr. A.L.L Shaker is now, but he was trying to be a true, profiles and courage, and it cost him his job. And it was funny because I started looking into the case, like even with the stepfather, I don't know what to make of him, because the sheriff claimed he never called the sheriff deputy or sheriff department saying that Frederick was missing. And when I met him on Good Friday 2011, he kind of like shifty eyed. But then what disappointed me was the family lawyer, Valerie Hicks Poe. Here I am. I did all this work to try to get the case still out there in the public's eye, and interviewing people, not making any money. And she accused me of being an opportunist, of being there for the. I mean, we got into the heated argument. It was hot. It was Good Friday 2011. We got into a heated argument. I had a friend from Memphis. She called me down. We went to the crime scene where they found the boy hanging from the tree. I ain't gonna never forget. It was the middle of the day. We had a police escort. Had VIPs, right? We had State Rep Willie Perkins, who was also the president of the NAACP down in Greenwood. He had State Senator David Jordan, well-respected politician among his peers and whatnot. Then you had the leader of the National Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the SCLC, Dr. King's old organization, Dr. Howard Creasy. He had had his folks from Atlanta. They came to offer their support and solidarity. So we went back there. I got the footage on my channel. I probably re-edit and upload and whatever I'm gonna do. So we went back there, right? This is the middle of the day. Got police escort, got all these VIPs. It still was spooky as hell. Spooky as hell. Because go back there, this is a white affluent neighborhood, right? Said this black kid from a different county who was on a job with his stepfather decided to hang himself in somebody else's neighborhood in a different county, in a white affluent neighborhood. They got trees in Sunflower County. Why not hang himself where he's from? So what was strange about the whole thing was a white dude watching us. It's like he was watching us. White guy in a pickup truck. And he actually was tending to the dog kennel. Like he walked over to the dog kennel like he was feeding the dogs. I think he was eardropping to see what we was talking about. And I wish I had approached him and tried to get him on the record on camera and say, well, so what do you think about this? What you say? This is creepy dude. Just really, he ain't interact with any of us. He just right by the dog kennel. We up here looking at the tree and the ground around the tree. They said he used a picnic table to get up there. He was about like 5'4", or something like that, to hang himself in a sophisticated knot, And I'm like, why is the table still out here? If this evidence, if they say he used this table, and the table was really dilapidated. They say he used this table. I think Fred Jermaine Collins like 5'4", like maybe 126, 130 pounds. They say he used this dilapidated table. It's been out there. Imagine this thing happened in December. And this is like Good Friday 2011. I think it was April. It was around April. So this, the elements and everything. Why it's not in the crime lab, I don't know. And like I said, the coroner said he was dead for 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours. But there was no body hanging from that tree that morning of December 2nd, Friday, 2010. So it's like everybody was kind of spooked out by the whole, even the police like they was uneasy. It was black police officers, but it's like they was uneasy about the whole law enforcement guys that escorted us. So, and this is right by the Tallahatchie River where they found Emmett Till's body. And so I don't know if it was like yesterday, Dr. Howard Creasy said, we're going to be back here. We are coming back here. But by July of that year, he was dead. Allegedly, he took a fall down some stairs at his home in Atlanta. But Dr. Howard Creasy was adamant about them coming back, and they never did. I guess after he died, the momentum died with him. Rest in power, Dr. Howard Creasy. But man, that case, man. So Dwayne Richardson, I get the nod. If he's not gonna look into something that happened over 10 years ago, well, he care about something that happened 70 years ago. Almost 70 years ago, right? But black people, man, we just a bunch of fools because we keep on thinking that these folks gonna do right. That's because they're laws. That's the reason why they don't want to do right. And laws are only as good as being enforced. You don't need more laws on the books. You need to enforce the laws already on the books. That is the key. I don't know what Judge doing, man. He supposed to been on about 30 minutes ago. I might have to reschedule the Judge thing. But I'm I guess it ain't the Judge Brown show today. But Judge been probably on 30 minutes ago. But anyway, that case burned me out. I actually wrote an investigative report 7 months back in July. I published it on my blog back in July of 2010. 7 months later, why no results? Why we don't know what happened to Frederick Jermaine Carter? I was the only media organization. I'm a blogger, mind you. I was the only person in the whole country that actually did a investigative report about the case. And like I said, I interviewed a lot of people. I interviewed his aunt, Shalea Ross, who lives in Pennsylvania, beautiful black woman. She actually was trying to push for justice for her nephew. His nickname was Fire. She had a passion to try to find out what happened to her nephew. And I met her in person when she came down here on her own to look into the matters herself on the ground. And I interviewed her a couple of times on my platform. But I talked to a lot of people on this case. I talked to law enforcement, talked to family, and I did my own research. And they don't want this stuff to be solved. What happened to Frederick Carter could have easily been solved. When I was in Greenwood, people tell me about rumors that this was payback for when the black folks killed this white drug dealer or whatever. I keep on hearing all these rumors. So he had a lot of leads that were never followed up on officially. So that case exhausted me, man. I was burnt out. I stopped doing podcasting, stopped blogging for several months. I mean, that case really, I was so disappointed to find out that people didn't want to do the right thing. I had got anonymous phone calls, not no death threats like that. People tell me, man, Ron, I know I be watching you, man. Stay away from this, man. Don't get too deep into this. These people are cutthroat. I had people tell me about people I thought were heroes and really for the people selling out the people for vendettas and other personal petty reasons. And these are folks that you'd be surprised to find out were obstructing the process of finding out what happened to Frederick Jermaine Carter. So I got a lesson that I never forgot. So I look at this Emmett Till thing because there's so many cases of black men being found hanging trees, and they saying it's suicide. What's the point of having an anti-lynch bill when every time you find a black person hanging from a playground set or a tree or a pole, you rule it a suicide? You rule Sandra Bland a suicide. Nobody really looked into that. Nobody even asked what type of material. I think they said she hanged herself with a garbage bag. Nobody never asked what was the brand of the garbage bag. Why nobody did no independent strength test to see if that was true? See, we don't ask nothing. That's why we don't get nothing. We don't ask the right questions. There's not no such thing as a stupid question. You got to know when to ask the right questions at the right time to get the right answer. It's all about how you ask the question. But there are so many cases like that. And we just forget about them. Then something else happened. We all get emotional because we really want to be white people friends. Y'all really want to be loved by white people. That's y'all problem. That's the biggest problem when it comes to getting justice, because justice don't love nobody. Justice is just that. It is what it is. But I ain't gonna never forget that case. I'm gonna talk about it. It's part of my life. But yeah, I did some good work on the Frederick Jermaine Carter case. I really did. I helped break the stories, got other folks involved, but I saw that they didn't want to get it solved because Valerie Hicks Poe was interesting, the family attorney. Like she wanted to be what Ben Crump eventually came, but she did it the wrong way. She pissed me off and pissed some other people off and cut corners and burnt bridges. Because from my understanding, she was meeting with the family, with Frederick's mom and her stepfather at McDonald's in Birmingham. Like they'll drive from Mississippi to Birmingham to meet with her. That was her office. I'm not knocking that because, I know how it is to be resourceful or thinking outside the box. You might not have the most resources or funding at your disposal, but I met her. It was disappointing. She really was. She acted like an ass. But my problem is a conflict of interest because I believe she was working with law enforcement in the state before she got involved in the Frederick Jermaine Carter case. I think she was working with some state troopers or something. I don't know, because it's been a while. I got to look over my notebook and reread my articles I wrote, but they out there still. on the We All Be blog. But I'll probably post a link to that in the box below. But I think Judge ain't coming on. But I think I just need to do a show to talk about something. It's been a lot on my mind. I'm gonna do some more Emmett Till shows. I actually interviewed a man, Dr. Whitaker, I believe his name. He lived in Florida when I interviewed him. But his father was a sheriff deputy during the time of Emmett Till. I believe he was one of the sheriff deputies involved. And I don't know if he was trying to find the missing black eyewitnesses, because there were black people involved in killing Emmett Till too. It was black folks that helped kidnap and kill and torture Emmett Till too. But it was two guys, Levi Too Tight Collins and Henry Lee Loggins. Now, Henry Lee Loggins, according to his son and some other people I talked to, his son is the mayor of Glendora. He runs the Emmett Till Museum down there in Glendora. His name is Johnny B. Thomas. He's a good brother, but he basically admitted to the fact that his father, Henry Lee Loggins, had something to do with Emmett Till getting killed. A lot of people believe that Henry Loggins was the one who pulled the trigger. He put the hole in Emmett Till's head. And I guess his son was saying that he was like a slave. He was in fear of losing his own life. I interviewed the son near the Black Bayou. See, there's another thing. People keep on saying that Emmett Till was thrown in the Tallahatchie River. He was thrown in the Black Bayou, which led into the Tallahatchie River. People keep on thinking that Emmett Till got kidnapped and killed the same night or the day after he allegedly wolf whistled or whatever he did, allegedly to Carolyn Bryant. No, it about 3 or 4 days later, they got the Emmett Till. So without further ado, we have the one and only, the person you came to hear and see and cheer. Some of y'all like to jeer, but your haters are your biggest fans as well, too. The one and only Judge Joseph Brown. How you doing, sir?
All right, young man. How you doing today?
All right, man. I just feel like I was in a therapy, man. There's a lot of my mind, a lot of crazy stuff going on, Judge. It's just, I can't believe it, man. There's too much.
Well, you know.
How you doing?
All right. Must be something in the water.
There's always been something in the water. You know that. You know, they always put too much, whether it be Flint water or so-called artesian water down here in Memphis. There's something in the water.
Or maybe it's just no home training and lack of character. But you know.
I got to ask you, man. I heard there's a couple things I want to talk about, but I know that you was a person that respected Kevin Samuels. I know you did a speech for him for his online memorial service, and they found out today that he died from natural causes. That he had, I guess, some heart disease issue. Though they saying he was taking some high blood pressure.
Yeah, he worked hard. He put in a lot of hours. You know, that'll get you down, stress you out, but at least you lead a productive life.
That's true too. Yeah,
everything's got a cost.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's like an engine. You get a big block engine, put it in a SUV, and you get a slug. Take the same block, work it up, put new insides in it, put a blower on it, and run nitro, and you can get some low elapsed times for the quarter mile, but the engine doesn't last as long as it would have if you were still packing around an SUV.
Yes, sir.
It's like that.
And also, I gotta get your take on the guy up in Indiana that put down that would-be mass shooter at the mall outside Indianapolis.
Yeah, he put down the mad. Yeah, he put the mad dog down. That's what we need. 22-year-old hero type. We need some more of him. And see, that always gets me. Every time I hear about these mass shootings, I think of Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, and a few other notables. And what was that movie? The Unforgiven. Sheriff Little Bill tells Clint Eastwood's character, "You just shot an unarmed man." And Eastwood's character comes back, "He should have armed himself." See, all of these people that could be buying bang instead of bling, they need to arm themselves because there are a lot of whacked out crazies out there that can't handle the stress of what's going on these days. And a lot of it doesn't make any sense at all.
But what?
It's lack of manhood too, and they're trying to sissify the country. And when you take the apex predator and you make a sissy out of him, it all goes to hell.
You know what's interesting about these so-called mass shooters and stuff? A lot of them seem to be like, I don't know. There's a profile. These like young white dudes in the late teens, early 20s. Some that's like they into cross-dressing or trans stuff. Is there a connection, or this is a coincidence? Like, because even the guy Salvador Ramos,
it's not a coincidence. It also reflects a lot of the hood rats doing drive-bys. They like masculinity too. There's no daddy in the home. The daddy, if one was around, was very ineffective, and they didn't get man training. Hood or hallway, it's the same punked out, emasculated, unmanly idiots that they can't duke it out, go toe to toe because they think they look too damn pretty. So they do what the tackhead mamas did, the equivalent of throwing battery acid on somebody that's unsuspecting about it, and they shoot up the hallways, whether the hallway's in a school or a mall, and they shoot up the hoods. It's a lack of manliness.
So what can be done like in a short term, and what would you recommend long term?
Make all that lame shit uncool. In other words, talk about them and say, no, it ain't right. Punked out crap. It's like I was having a discussion with somebody about black culture. So I said, we don't have one as a people, black people. Oh, yes, we do, man. Well, what? Hip hop, man. I said, it's not culture. It's just music and dancing. That's entertaining. That's distraction. That's not culture. Well, man, see what I said? Well, we don't even have a religion. We forgot our ancestral religion. Nobody knows who Damballa, Cotier, and Agumbi are. Nobody has any ancestral traditions about what's right, value systems, anything like that. There's no family thing because what we have right now is no longer a family. It's just a breeding unit that exploits the availability of welfare checks or circumstance or ego or what is it? Just plain stupidity. So we're not training our children. Some of us are.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, these children are not getting trained to be productive members of a progressive community. They're being trained to be degenerate, self-serving, egotistical without much to have an ego for, to be just too off into feeling entitled with no sense of obligation and no purpose. It's bad. But it's good that you see some young people like this 22-year-old guy that stood up and risked a lot. And actually what he risked was more so what is going to happen later in civil liability, or somebody like our little ambulance chasing bunch come in there and want to say, oh, he gunned down somebody they could have taken him prisoner. Or like this one, I was just looking at it. It's been going around on Twitter. This woman who's part Native American and part black, and she called the police to complain that this 20-year-old neighbor of hers was, for some reason she couldn't fathom, trying to shoot her and her children. The police got there, and there was a 6-hour standoff, multiple shots fired all up throughout the period, and 2 snipers took him out, killed him, which is what they're supposed to do under the circumstances. And BLM came in and tried to talk to the woman who was the intended victim, and she said, basically, get the hell out of here, go to hell. He was trying to kill me and my children. They should have shot him. What are you in here protesting about? It's always same old, same old. This narcissistic attitude of, oh, he was been a good boy. I used to hear that all the time. Lady, you say he's a good boy? He's 19 years old with 37 violent felonies since he's been 15. What do you mean he's a good boy? Well, he never gave me no trouble. What do you mean? With all of this, you didn't consider that trouble? Well, he always gave me everything I wanted. Well, he dropped out of the 6th grade and he's never had a job. How do you think he got what he was giving you? Never thought about it. See, it's this lack of attention to the fact that you belong in a bigger community. And when your society is not just limited to you and your little circle, but the people who are your neighbors, live on your block, live in your neighborhood, things break down because we don't seem to feel any obligation to that. And the other thing is, oh my God, we have to protect the children from bullies, the parents and the teachers and the police. And you have the ludicrous result of arresting a 7-year-old and taking him downtown because there was a fight on the playground.
Mm-hmm.
That is so stupid. And see, the other thing is when this boy grows up, becomes physically mature, and he's never had to screw up the courage and bust a bully right in his mouth, jaw, whatever it may be, or nose. Maybe he got his butt beat, but he still screwed up the nerve to do it. So he learns about being brave and overcoming fear. And he can point to himself. But you see, when you protect the kid from doing that, what happens is that monster that says, I want to go eat that. Maybe I don't want to go kill it, but I'll buy it in a grocery store and somebody else killed it. What makes it safe from a large number of grizzly bears, mountain lions, wolves, and other things that might want to eat you. We have top of the food chain status, and if you try to protect some kid from learning that about himself, it doesn't go away. It just lurks in the background. He's least expecting it, jumps out grinning at him and says, oh man, hey dude, I want you to meet me. It's this other part of you that you don't know how to deal with. You know, we got to do better. Brothers, watch where you put your dick. You don't need to be sticking it in just anything. Jack off or something. Some of these women you don't need to have babies with. You don't want them turning up ugly, and you don't want them turning up stupid, and you want to have them around so you can give them man training so they make where you live a better and safer place, more prosperous, filled with economic security, sense of purpose, morality, and ethics. You know, public peace, dignity, and order should be yours. So watch what you're doing. And ladies, keep your legs closed. Unless there's something going on that's a bit more than getting a one-night stand and maybe copping a check and just having status. So I'm a mommy. That's work. The other thing, we need to do something about ideation in this whole damn society. Men fundamentally have to be about protecting and providing, and anything else past that, cool. Women have to be about being mothers or doing the mothering, and after that is cool. But you see, women don't give a damn about being a mother anymore. Oh, I want my career because being a good mom somehow or another, if you can't buy it, you know, that's wrong. And guys sit there, yay, man, I got 19 children, man. Well, by, 19 different ladies, man, I got it going on. How many you support? What that got to do with it, man? Well, fool, that's what being a man is about. What happened to you? Well, I used to ask him if the court's disposed to put you on probation, young man, how are you going to support yourself? Well, see, Your Honor, like respect, I got 4 ladies take good care of me. It's like 2 of them got good JOBs, 1 get a crazy check, and 1 get AFDC. They takes care of me. I get everything I want. What do you do, young man? I don't understand. I make things smooth for them, Your Honor. No, what do you do as a man? Well, ain't that what a man's supposed to do? Hell no. Strike that, Madam Court Reporter. That is not what a man does. Do you have a job? Huh? Or the one gets me was going around on Twitter. I don't know what you talking about, Judge. The household got $150,000 income. I make $25K and my lady make $125K. We got good money. What in the hell is wrong with you, dude?
Oh, Joe, I want to ask you this as well, because I know that the one you're talking about, the Tekel Sundberg, that's the latest one, who shoot at the neighbors allegedly and got shot by the SWAT. What is it about Minnesota and black men? Why is George Floyd and him and some other guys that being highlighted for the so-called police brutality?
Have you ever been to Minnesota? Have you ever been to Minnesota?
No, sir.
It's probably the most thoroughly integrated town you're ever going to get in. Some years ago, I spoke to the Black Lawyers Association up there. They had a few good black lawyers, but they had a lot of colored ones. Frankly, Judge, we were more impressed by Vice President Dick Cheney last year, and we were embarrassed when you got to bringing up these race issues. And I wasn't talking all this white supremacy nonsense. I was just talking about things have to be dealt with. And one colored boy was brought up by the Jewish senior member of his firm. Charles, I want you to meet the judge. I don't want to, TJ. He makes me feel bad. He's always trying to do what he's doing. Look, Charles, it's all right for you to support your people. Myself and Schwartz, we support all the Jewish causes. What's wrong with you supporting being black? I don't want to, TJ. It makes me feel nervous. Charles, go shake the judge's hand. Like, damn, Negro, you house fool. It ain't even a butler because you don't have that much school in class.
What?
You know, sometimes it's pathetic, but Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Minnesota is like that. It's like they hired the first black for NBA guy named Don Barksdale out of UCLA. Actually, Barksdale ran track, played football, didn't even play basketball, but that's why they call that team the Lakers, because Minnesota is known for the lakes. And I was back in 47, so wow, we whoopee, it is the place. They have more integration up there than you can possibly imagine. It's probably one of the freer cities, black, white, brown, red, yellow, that you'll find in America. So there's a lot of going on. And then you have this discrepancy between those who are at this level, which is up, and then this level, which is down. So the ones that are down see a lot of what's up, and they get real depressed, and they do all kinds of stuff on stupid stuff. By the way, look, in his fentanyl, that's becoming a problem. We have something called IKDs now, improvised killing devices. The guys who are coming back as vets from the Middle East, they know about IEDs, which is one form of IKD. I came up with IKD, improvised killing devices, but they know what IEDs are, improvised explosive devices. They come back jacked up in a body bag or mutilated with a lot of body parts and their face blown off. It's tragic, but when you have a shortage of weaponry, people can come up with alternatives. One of them that's sweeping Tennessee, I'll tell you about. Don't pick up any money laying next to a gas pump at the fast food place or at a convenience store. Some idiots are taking this fentanyl that's being smuggled. It's not even smuggled. It's brought across the border in huge quantities and sells cheaply. And they are folding it up inside of $1 bills, 5, 10s, 20s, and even 50s. The Tennessee Sheriff's Association is reporting on it, and there have been some victims. The problem with fentanyl is it absorbs through the skin. So somebody picks it up and thinks, well, maybe somebody was snorting some coke. You know, what the hell? I'll shake that off. I got a $50 bill. Yeah. And the person feels nothing. And then hour and a half later, they just keel over and fall out. Maybe they're still alive, maybe not. And they're putting some other stuff they're mixing in with the fentanyl, arsenic, and things like that. And the fentanyl absorbs through the skin. Wow. And it's cheap as the devil, too. So IKD, improvised killing device. You still have these whacked out sickos who hate themselves. So they want to spread the misery around. You know, what is it? Misery loves company.
Yes, sir.
So beware if you find money laying on the ground near a gas pump, on the way into or out of a convenience store, or at a fast food place. There's some sickos, especially in Tennessee, that are putting these things down.
Yeah, I saw an article. I was thinking about you too.
Of people a woman that get jacked up on.
Yeah, there's a woman that picked up $1 bill and she started suffering from what you said. It had been tainted, and her husband, luckily he rushed her, but he caught some of it too from touching her or whatever. But that stuff is like, you think it's an urban legend, but this stuff is real. But people hurting for money though, Judge. Well, I mean, gas almost $5 a gallon.
Well, let me tell you this: I had cancer last year.
Yes, sir.
They told me I beat it, but they gave me a fentanyl prescription. So a 30-day supply of this stuff was. Guess how much the copay was? $1. No, $1.63. This stuff is so potent that it's in a stick-on patch, like a little circular Band-Aid about the size of your fingernail on your baby finger. You take that patch to your arm, and that's good for 72 hours. And it works, but it is not a good high. You like sit down. I don't want to move around. This is crazy. You are not possessed of good judgment, a whole lot of other stuff, but it goes through your skin. So they're bringing in huge quantities of this stuff, and fools are just taking it, and they got on the rubber gloves, and they want to hurt somebody. They just smear it all over the bills or fold one of them up, fill it with the powder, and by the time the person looks, they might just dust their hands off. No big deal, but you've been jacked up. It'll be an hour or so before it hits you.
Wow.
You got to be careful. IKDs, improvised killing devices. And you see, where I'm going with this is, it's not the device, it's not the fentanyl, it's not the guns, it's not the knives, it's not the hammers, it's the character. See, I took martial arts for 55 years. I can kill most adult humans inside of 15, 20, 30 seconds, unless they have a similar skill set. But, when I walk in someplace, what's everybody supposed to do? Guard against me? No, I'm there to protect most people. So it's a matter of character. You see me in Memphis, I'm always packing. You know that. So
Judge,
I'm not going to gun anybody down. I'll protect somebody. Yeah, but the bottom line is it's not about the weapon. And as a matter of fact, 4 or 5 times more people get killed with butcher knives and claw hammers and baseball bats. Those aluminum softball bats make good as a mace, war club. It would have done real good throughout most human history. I've got stuff out in the back. I used to do I'm a certified master diver with Patty. I've got some spears for fish. You've got a huge surgical rubber tubing band on it, and it's fixed to the rear. And what you do is just slide the thing back in your hand until the head's about right here, and this long spear's back there. And you just, 8, 9, 10 feet away, you just ran somebody through.
Wow.
So what are you supposed to do? You can go down and get that at a sporting goods place or order it online.
Well, they were saying that the dude
in
Indiana, near Indianapolis, he purchased those guns from a store nearby the mall. The 20-year-old kid. Legally.
And what's the deal? you know, there's this thing. You ever heard of collateral damage?
Yes, sir.
See, being free is not safe.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be very safe, but what happens is you have an authoritarian government. I mean, one time I was in what used to be one of those Iron Curtain countries. I was in Europe, and it was a long time ago, and I'm in a train station, right? I wasn't paying a bit of attention, and I stepped on this dotted line. I said, oh, shit, I know what I'm hearing. I just put my hands up like that. I heard all these Kalishnikov, Comrade General Kalishnikov. I heard all of these AK bolts going back and rounds getting chambered. Sprachen Sie Deutsch? Nein, nein. Sprachen Sie English? Only tell.
Well, I mean, 11
It's not good, yeah? Fritz, he steps on the line, yeah? Not good. Yeah, not good. Not good. No, worked it out. Like, they getting ready to blow my house away because I stepped on a dotted line being clumsy. You know, everywhere is not America. And you see, in order to have this place, you can't have these clowns talking about they're gonna, you know, not put on polished knee-high jack boots and goose step and Zeke Heil on you, you know, to be fascist. They walk around wearing pink panties, you know, and switching and twitching. But they're trying to abolish the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. Oh, my God, they got piss on themselves. Oh, you had a gun. Yeah, well, he's got, oh, you know, defund the police or Fourth Amendment. Search warrant? Oh, my God. They're probably doing something wrong in there. Fifth Amendment, we have a right to know. They don't need the right to be silent. You stupid fascist idiots. What in the hell are you trying to do? And now these dumb bunnies are trying to stuff the Supreme Court with 4 extra justices to make it 13 to unstick the balance at 6-3. Hell, run your politics, play by the rules. And plus, what's likely to happen, that stupid jackasses are likely to get their asses whooped in the midterms. And yeah, what happens if you've got Republicans controlling the Senate and the House? And see, I don't like what they did with this Jackson woman. I think it's very bad. What's her name? Ketanji Jackson?
Yeah, Ketanji Brown Jackson, something like that.
Yeah,
Ketanji Jackson Brown or something.
Yeah, something. I know quite a few black lady justices that are much more qualified for that position. Start with the Honorable Bernice Donald from right here in Memphis, who's on the 6th Circuit. She could have been there. And I know that sister's got a good head and is coming from the right place. Justice Rogery Clifton. I know her and her late husband quite well. And she's on the 2nd Circuit Court of Appeals. They should have got her. They got this.
But I don't
know what a woman is. Damn, we don't read your bullshit, lady, where you're trying to send a signal to those I want to be a woman fools who cop out and make the rest of us men have a heavier workload.
But Judge, all these women you name, they say they're qualified, but are they married to the right type of man? Are they married to affluent white men with certain type of like Paul Ryan is an in-law? I mean, it's like he connected to this brown girl, and man's a white man.
Yeah, I know. But these sisters are married to, well, either widow of a brother or married to a brother. Good women. And always have been down with the cause, doing things that have helped the people out with a demonstrated track record. Can you define a woman? And this is a woman asking. I don't know how to do that. I'm not a biologist. Oh, like we can't read that.
Judge, this is a crazy world, man. I just, you know, what you were saying, I'm thinking about, like, even with these mass shooters, some of them saying they trans people or cross-dressing. I'm thinking about the brown shirts, the essays. We're living in a time of those are real fashion. The Night of the
Yeah,
Long
and they were
Knives.
also real gay too.
Right.
Yeah,
They
Night
were
of the Long
homicidal though.
Knives
They were
had a
crazy.
lot to do with they wanted to get rid of the homosexual thing too. Not saying you ought to do it, but they were so obvious. They used to make propaganda films with them naked in the shower, pulling on each other's dicks.
God.
And when Hitler personally busted in with a pistol in hand to get Rom, he was in bed with his boy chauffeur.
Oh my God. But Hitler was, you know what funny though? It's not funny, but one of Hitler's biggest admirers was Franklin Roosevelt back in the 30s. I mean, they really respected Hitler. This is a Democrat. And Hitler they were a Democrat, right? They were Democrats, right? They were liberals.
Don't forget Lindbergh either.
Yeah, Charles Lindbergh, he was a Nazi guy. Henry Ford too. Henry Ford
used to send he sent Hitler a check every year, including during the war for his birthday. And by the way, the Wehrmacht in the Waffen-SS, they drove a lot of Ford manufactured trucks.
Exactly.
And interestingly enough, the RAF and the U.S. Army Air Force did not bomb those Ford factories. They should have blasted them to oblivion, but they didn't touch them. And also, Prescott Bush and George Herbert Walker Bush's daddy and granddaddy had been installed by Rockefeller and Carnegie to run this consortium of German arms manufacturers that they had picked up after World War I, and the Bushes got a check from the Nazi factories all through World War II. And
this
they
stuff is crazy,
too.
Judge. This stuff is crazy.
Yes.
War is hell, war is money, war is profit. I mean, it's confused the average layperson here. It's like Franklin Roosevelt, his grandfather was a big time drug dealer. You sell opium to the Chinese back in the day.
Well, let me tell you about the opium. No. What it was the tea trade, the Flying Cloud, the clipper ships, the Cutty Sark. Here's the way it went.
Okay.
The last effective Chinese emperor back in the late mid 18th century decreed that only gold bullion would be accepted for tea. Well, Great Britain went broke. King George III was broke, which is one of the reasons there's a United States of America today, because Great Britain was too damn broke to prosecute the war against the colonies and deal with the French, who were getting unruly. So they came up with the bright idea of growing opium poppies in what they called northern India, which is now known as Afghanistan. So there was a triangular trade. These clipper ships would rush to Afghanistan or to northern India, take the tea, take it to China, exchange it for gold bullion, hand the gold bullion back for tea, and then go quickly to America or to Britain with their tea. So you can get your Earl Grey, or Lipton tea, and drink that nasty shit that is boiled from dead leaves. And you see all of those Chinese opium dens where the Americans and the English deliberately addicted millions of Chinese to opium so they could have tea. And remember the Boston Tea Party, where no taxation without representation, and George Washington had 2 teeth left in his filthy mouth because he lost all the rest of them to tooth decay because they didn't use toothbrushes then. And they added tons of sugar to their tea, and they were right over here where they could grow lots of sugar cane for their tea, which they brought in from China. Hypocritical bastards. And by the way, it's interesting reading some of Mao's prognostications from 1950 and 51, when he went right along with Stalin and sent the Chinese troops in and ran MacArthur's arrogant ass back across the 38th parallel. And one of his justifications for getting involved was this: In his writings, he said any people filthy enough to addict human beings to this horrible drug known as opium just to get tea are not fit to manage the affairs of humans. And the Americans had an agreement with Chiang Kai-shek, even in 1950, that if he got control of China again, which they were going to help him do until they found out the Soviets had the bomb, basically, he was going to allow the continued addiction of Chinese with opiates in return for tea. It's a filthy thing.
Wow.
Give me coffee.
Well, Joe, I gotta ask you about another international affair, like this Brittany Griner thing. Like, Biden just passed something recently about Americans being held hostage abroad or whatever on the hostile situations. What's your take on the Brittany Griner thing? I mean, is she getting out, or like
she would have been arrested in an American airport for bringing in cannabis oil? When you think of cannabis oil, don't think of marijuana, think of hashish.
Okay.
And the amount she had, by the way, purportedly the dog sniffed it out. So you were going through a major international airport, one of the biggest in the world, and you carrying a good quantity of cannabis oil. You got to be a fool. Or else you're awful unlucky for forgetting that you had it. Maybe that's because you're still high. So, by the way, the maximum time she can get in Russia for what she's already pled guilty to, is about the average sentence that she'd have gotten in America for having what she had. See, they have legalized marijuana statewide in a number of states, not yet Tennessee, but it's still against federal law. And when you start talking about hashish, or you start talking about cannabis oil, you got a problem. You're talking about refined product. You're talking about serious. Well, somebody said they set a system clean. So fucking what? She had the drugs.
I heard it says here that like a medical prescription.
What the hell? Well, but it don't work in the Soviet Union. Doesn't work. They got to jail for that shit. Get your ass out and work for the people. Yeah, go get out there and work for the people, or get your ass put in a gulag.
But no, Judge, I keep on thinking Trump would have got out a long time ago. Trump would have got out. He got the other people out. They were guilty.
Let's put it this way.
They were guilty, Judge.
Yeah, but let's put it this way. She's not worth trading for a high-level spy. You save that for a real spy that has been doing work for the country, or an ally who's been doing the James Bond shit for real. You don't save it for somebody that is going over there, Right.
But Trump is friends with Putin, right? He would have got out on some low-level stuff.
No, that isn't what it's all about. Trump ain't on Putin's level. Trump's worth about 3 or 4 billion. Putin is supposedly worth a net of $120 billion. That puts him way up there.
He's a gangster, man. He ruthless, man. He tough.
Yeah, he used to be part of the KGB, a field operative. One of James Bond's opponents. One of them real deal dudes,
And he no pushover, man. I mean, you got to respect that on some level, that he's not a pushover. He wouldn't to put it out on the line. Yeah.
He's real deal. And he was a field operative in Africa, too, for a long time. Yeah. He's one of these stuck the knife in and shoved it forward. Not that way they do in the movies.
Now you think about, how would Obama handle him, though? Did he respect Obama, you think?
No.
What about Trump? You think he thought Trump was a pushover? You think Putin saw him?
Well, I don't think he thought Trump was a pushover. Trump was a reasonable guy. Bush is a dumb shit.
The son,
Obama was a pussy. The George W. was a dipshit junkie. Obama was a pussy. Bathhouse Barry. And Joe Biden, the goddamn piece of trailer park trash that's been on the take since day one. He's supposed to be a multimillionaire, and this fool has never in his life pulled anything down but a government paycheck. It does not compute.
But look at his son, though. It got all this evidence of his son's ethical, questionable behavior, and the news is covering up, mainstream news, and reporting on laptop. They
Well,
said it was real. A year
how
later,
about this one? How about this one?
mm-hmm.
Part of the supreme law of the land, Article 6 of the Constitution of the United States, shall be, etc., and such treaties as have been ratified by the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
We have several with Ukraine. One of them is cooperation in the detection, apprehension, detainment, and extradition of criminal elements. Biden is subject to a 100+ count indictment where he and his son are named. Some of the counts deal with subornation of perjury, solicitation of treason, that might not wash in American law, but bribery and extortion. And he got up himself in January 3 years ago on a C-SPAN thing I listened to live.
I remember that.
I guess I'm guilty of extortion and bribery, blah, blah, blah. And what does Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution say? The president and vice president may be impeached and upon conviction removed from office, or as per the 12th Amendment, no longer become eligible to hold any other office for 3 things. 1, bribery. 2, treason, and they're talking about going against Clarence Thomas, but you can't get him for treason because the Constitution itself defines treason, under what circumstances the crime will lie, and how many witnesses you have to have, and what they have to testify to, and none of that applies. But the next one is number 3, misdemeanors or felonies in office. They call it misdemeanors or high crimes in office. Now, he's no longer vice president when most of this occurred, but it's not really clearly defined in the Constitution as to when this is supposed to have occurred. So what did the dipshits up in Congress do? They went after Trump for the second round of impeachment, and he was no longer president of the United States. So they set the precedent for we can go after somebody for something done when he no longer holds the office. So Biden is no longer vice president. There's no statute of limitations on it. They could probably get him if the Republicans control the House. They could certainly impeach him, and they could certainly have a pretty good chance of convicting him if they get a Republican Senate with the majority they're likely to come up with. Now, Trump got impeached twice, but that's like you've been indicted twice because you are still presumed innocent until you're proven guilty. So while we whoopee, and then look how stupid the Democrats were. The first round of impeachment was he abused his authority, 1. 2, he obstructed Congress. Let's deal with that one. Congress, according to Article 1 of the Constitution, shall consist of 2 chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate. So when you're talking about Congress, you're talking about the collective Senate and House. The House sent the articles over, so all the Senate had to do was, hey guys, do you feel that you got obstructed? No. He's in our party and we hold the majority. So to hell with that. So that count is dead on arrival. Next thing, abused authority. That's not bribery, certainly isn't treason, and there's no misdemeanor or felony offense designated as abusing your authority. So you dumb shits, you sat there and wasted all that time on some bullshit that didn't even amount to any proper charges. See, you know where they come from? Back in the 19th century, the Senate was not elected, it was appointed. By either the state's governor and or the state legislative bodies, and it was not something people could vote on. When they got to talking about an election, they would talk about election of those congressmen who could be elected, which was basically in the House of Representatives. So the idiots nowadays, 100 some years later, 120 some years later, are taking stuff out of newspapers and assuming that when you say Congress, you just mean House of Representatives. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
So the stupid dipshits sat there and wasted all that time. And now this January 6th committee crap is ridiculous. There's nothing they have the authority to do. And if the U.S. attorney wanted to do something about it, he would instruct one of his local U.S. attorneys in a district where they're likely to be able to do something to convene a grand jury. They haven't. And what they're likely to do is pull that same stunt off they did with Ollie North, where they got a conviction of Ollie North, but they had to throw it out because they got to being so cutesy up in Congress that by the time they got through doing their thing, they'd violated all kinds of defendants' rights. It went on a technicality. So it's all bullshit. It's just you sorry, pathetic, incompetent creeps are trying to distract attention from your messed up job. Oh, look what they did. No, you're up for vote. And by the way, anybody in Shelby County, I would strongly urge you to act as an independent and don't look at party. Just look at who's doing what, and also to punish. Vote to punish. If you've been effing up and delivering nothing, vote against them. Turn the bastards out. Like, look at what we've got with the 9th district. Our congressman, our representative, has as his showpiece item of legislation in the 14 years he's been in there. A binding resolution mandating the use of paper straws in the congressional cafeteria. Now, where the hell did that get us?
Get going with Cohen, Judge. But you know what? I keep on thinking if Nixon had Watergate today, he would survive. He would have survived. He would have been in the White House, served his term. Because this is there's a bread and circus, like you said. And I'm looking at the January 16th. It's like a comedy skit that went on too long. I be laughing at it when I look at it online. I can't take them seriously because, Benny Thompson, why don't you get Carolyn Bryant Dunham back to Mississippi to face charges for killing Emmett Till or kidnapping him? I'll take him more seriously if he did that versus trying to get out of people they try to like Trump was a bully. Like he just bullied everybody to do what he wants. If he was bullying everybody, he could be president right now.
Come on. Come on.
He bullied Pence. He bullied everybody.
Like the vote count was accurate. And you know what problem we've had in Shelby County where the U.S. Department of Justice 17 years ago found that the voting machines were so corrupted we couldn't have a fair election, put the money up 14 years ago, and then these clowns on the county commission are talking about, well, we finally reached a compromise. Now we're going to have to appropriate the money. Whoa. What the hell happened to the money the feds put up 14 years ago in 2008 to replace machines? What did you do with it? How many of you need to go to a federal penitentiary for embezzlement or fraud? You see, the money's supposed to be up. So now they're trying to deal with an excuse. We've been having a fight. There's the faction that wants the votes tallied electronically and the faction that wants them tallied by paper. So we're going to let the citizens make the election at the polling place, whether they want them tallied by paper or by electronically. Hell, that doesn't do a damn thing about the fact you can steal them.
Right.
And if you go online right now, you will find Shelby County is the last county in the United States of America to use what used to be known as deballed voting machines. They've got a numeric designation, but on the blurb they put out 22 years ago about them, it says, you can access the voting totals for the whole system from any one machine. Well, the feds found, California did too, that when you can access the voting total from any one machine, you can corrupt the whole damn system from any one machine. which is exactly what you can do. The Justice Department found that California, to discourage any other state from using those machines, published the pamphlet online on how to do it. You need a smartphone. And when you have a smartphone, you just type in a text using the formula with the candidate numbers and the office number. When you get 5 feet away, you know, those little slots where you stick your card in before you put your card in, you just press send. Now you own that machine, you own the whole precinct in 10 minutes and the whole system in 45 minutes to an hour. That's what the Justice Department found. So we haven't had a fair election, and I don't know how I'll win. So it's strange that they just now want to get these things in time for what? Maybe. But then again, you see that little thing they slipped in on Shelby County? I feel complimented because I know it's directed to me. That little thing about rescinding the term limits for the mayor and the councilman so you could extend it. They want Strickland's lame, popping, fresh doughboy ass to stay up in there so he can take me on. I'll still whip his goddamn incompetent ass. And we can start with his incompetence. Just drive down these messed up streets that haven't been repaired and God knows when.
They repair them, but they don't
got
fix
damage to their cars.
Yeah, but they stay out there fixing the roads. It still be messed.
Yeah, but they give the contracts to the same people who intentionally don't fix them up, so they keep getting contracts in perpetuity at the public trough. See, why don't we stick some turbines down here, hydroelectric turbines in the Mississippi River? There's a 35-foot deep channel on the side over here on the Tennessee side that they don't much use for navigation because the currents are too strong. That's just what you need to drive these turbines. We could have essentially free electric power. We could get them financed by putting up some bond issues on Wall Street. The main expense would be maintenance, but we could make it pay for itself because we could sell the energy from New Orleans to Louisville to St. Louis to Kansas City to Chicago, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, North and South Carolina, Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Oklahoma, you name it. We could be selling it. And if you analyze industry over the last 150 years, it didn't go to where the raw resource was. It went to where the fuel was. So we've got electric power here just for the taking with this mighty Mississippi that's going nowhere for the next few million years. Well, think of the industry we could get in here. We don't have any smog inversion layer. We've got I-40, the main transcontinental thoroughfare goes right through. And for the first time in American history, you've got a manufacturing center, or would have, right at the nexus of where the main waterway crosses the main highway for the country. And this used to be why Memphis was what it was when it was an agricultural South. And you had cotton was king, and they used to say the old South started at the Peabody Hotel and ran to New Orleans because of cotton. Now you're talking about industry. Now you're talking about Memphis International Airport, which has for the last 30 years had the highest commercial tonnage flow in the world, only seconded by Hong Kong International. And wow, we whoopee.
But Judge, I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm thinking about the Amy Wyrick. If she wins this time around, what do they say about the mayor of Memphis elections for you? I mean, are you in? I mean,
well, what's going to happen is, frankly, I'm going to evoke what the mayors can do and bring in TVI to independently investigate this. She and a certain other former U.S. attorney have this deal going about these 28,000 untested rape kits. There was a $7.2 million contract with a New York firm that was supposed to run for 5 years. Well, there was a 5-year extension granted, and the testing still hasn't occurred. Strangely enough, TBI says, hey, we can come in and do them all in 30 days for free. Why do you have to pay $7.2 million and pay this woman out all this money to assess them? Nora Jackson got off. Why did she get off? Because guess what? they had some black female investigators up in the DA's office, and excuse my language, they were objecting to being called nigger bitches on the job. Wyrick told them to shut up and deal with it or hit the highway. Well, they hit the highway. They complained to EEOC. EEOC found cause, issued a right to sue letter. They couldn't find any lawyer who wasn't too chicken shit to take the case, but they still got the right to sue letter and a finding of cause. So what did they do? They had a rape kit tested that Amy Wyrick had been sitting on. And that rape kit went up, and what did it show? There was a United Methodist preacher, white, from Jackson, Tennessee, who had had sex with Miss Jackson's mama within an hour or so before she died, and his DNA was all over the house. And Wyrick was held to have engaged in prosecutorial misconduct all throughout that case, trying to protect the guy. And what kind of DA is she? She's a crook. Way back when she first started and I was still on the bench, she tried to transfer a case. Well, she did. I let her do that. Transferred into my courtroom. Her offer was dismiss the charges against a female defendant. Call it nullo prosecuere. Drop the charges. And for the male defendant, here's the sentence. 1 year up front, unsupervised probation, record to be expunged at the end of the year. Never did mention quantity of drugs, but she didn't want me to have a hearing. I did. Still didn't mention drugs. I brought Metro Narco down there. Guess how much we talking about? 4.5 kilos of pure heroin, 4 kilos of pure cocaine. That would have cut out at 9,000 pounds worth. 3,000 some hits of crystal meth, 2,000 or 3,000 hits of quaaludes. Even had 1,500 hits of LSD, for goodness sakes. And this was supposed to be 45 years minimum in the state penitentiary, life in the federal penitentiary, and she's offering 1 year up front. 800 some thousand in cash seized. Metro Narco had been working on this case for 3.5 years. They had wiretaps, people wired for sound. That's how they did the bust. One of the folk they had was catching it on the wire. They said, all right, they're making an exchange. Let's go. And they got them dead to rights, and she's letting it go. She's soft on crime. And another thing she does, she's trying to, I guess if you're a feminist, you'd love it. She's trying to help out these white female prosecutors who she wants to have trial experience. So she's been bringing them upstairs to criminal court before they learn their trade. She wants everything set for trial so they can get experience in trying cases. Well, that's caused the criminal courts to run way behind time. It is dysfunctional. It has resulted in offers for simple possession of marijuana, which are the stiffest in the United States of America now, according to the Department of Justice. And it's just a ridiculous, ludicrous farce. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. And doesn't give a damn because it's all about country club justice, our little in crowd. So I think the woman that should have run as an independent and would have been an excellent DA would have been Linda Harris. I remember back in the 70s, my clients used to talk about how fair she was when she was a patrol woman for Memphis Police Department and helped refound the Afro-American Patrolmen's Association. My clients always said she was fair and tried to talk things down all the time. So she sent herself through law school. She became a clerk for one of the federal judges. She was with the U.S. Attorney's Office for 19 years, for 15 as a prosecutor, and for 4 years in the Civil Rights Division. She was a criminal defense lawyer. She handled a lot of voting rights cases. She's a certified arbitrator and mediator for the state of Tennessee, and she's a law professor out here at the University of Memphis. And she's got more prosecutorial experience than this incompetent charlatan we've got down here, Amy the Were-Witch. So anyway,
I know
racist individual with her collection of bought-off Negroes, including a whole lot of pulpit pimp preachers.
I know she got. My mom told me she got a big endorsement from Lorenzen Wright's mom. I guess because like they solved the murder of Lorenzen Wright, got his ex in prison, and the other guy.
That wasn't her ass. That was the Memphis Police Department.
But his mom, I mean, she.
And you're talking about going in front of what? The parole board? That ain't even her job. That's the parole board. God damn, I hate to say it, man, but Ms. Wright's mama talking crap she is being misled on. Ain't got nothing to do with Amy Wyrick. It's got to do with the parole board. It's got nothing to do with Amy Wyrick. It's got to do with a jury. It ain't got nothing to do with Amy Wyrick. It's got to do with a grand jury. It ain't got nothing to do with Amy Wyrick. It's got to do with the Court of Criminal Appeals.
I hear you, Judge.
So let's be real.
I hope the people hear you on that one too, because early voting is going on now. But if they're not counting the votes, Judge, and
woman's a damn crook. And matter of fact, if you look at her record, let's look at her record. Let's look at the official record.
Okay.
Harvard, Yale, Princeton Law Review, Stanford Law Review, several appellate courts, Tennessee Supreme Court, they've all done surveys. And they found that she personally, individually, has more findings of prosecutorial misconduct against her than any DA's office in America has collectively. In other words, she personally has more appellate findings of prosecutorial misconduct against her than LA DA's office has with all of their staff, than New York prosecutor's office has with all of their staff, than the one in Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Miami, and Detroit. She individually has more. And interestingly enough, every one of the instances, which 14 plus at last count, where she was chastised by a Tennessee appellate court for wrongdoing, all of those defendants are white, but 95% of the defendants going through this system are black. So you can imagine what she's been doing to the black ones.
Well, Judge, could you work with her as mayor of Memphis? Could you work with her as being?
I don't have to work with her. There's another damn thing. There are three methods of being prosecuted in criminal court. One is on information. That's when somebody, the defense and the prosecution, stipulate that there's probable cause to go forward. One's on indictment, when the DA accepts the invitation from the grand jury to present one-sided probable cause. And the other one is called a presentment, where the DA might not even be invited. You see, in Tennessee, the DA doesn't have a right to talk to the grand jury. They are there because of the grand jury's invitation. And when they deal with a presentment, the grand jury can operate on its own, doesn't even have to tell the damn DA, because the DA might be the subject. I used to be in charge of the grand jury twice during my, I got elected to 2 8-year terms. Twice I had to run the grand jury. And by the way, somebody's putting in here, that's what you call prosecutorial discretion. In American law, the prosecutor has essentially absolute discretion on who is to be prosecuted and who is not, unless the grand jury returns a presentment, in which case, if the local DA doesn't want to go after the person, then they bring in an outside one who's appointed by the state Supreme Court. Wow. There's a lot. And you know what? They had Tennessee Waltz, that sting operation. Maybe we need to have a Memphis hip hop and sting operate on some of the crooks we've got around here. There are enough wrongdoings. I can think of the mayor's office for the county, that's Harris, invading Wanda Halbert's constitutionally separate bank accounts running the clerk's office, where they've been snatching money out of there and commingling federal funds earmarked for the clerk's office with a general account so they can leverage more goodies with Ford. The comptroller's got a financial interest in it. Van Turner is the NAACP president, and yet he wound up jumping in there all the way from Memphis to talk to the mayor of Mason, who is a physician, never been in politics, about dismissing the lawsuit. And the citizens of Mason have to pay off the theft of some crooks who were in office for 20, 25 years and embezzled a whole lot of the city's money. They're putting this factory up there for Ford Motor Company to make electric vehicles. Well, the governor of the state of Tennessee has a big interest in the factory that's going to be making parts for the batteries for these electric cars. The comptroller's trying to get in. The mayor of Tipton County bought 550 acres of rural land halfway between Mason and the factory 12 miles away, where downtown Mason's going to be. There are 5,200 people in Mason, maybe 1,000 people that could work, but Ford says they need 27,500 people. They don't want black folk to go up there because that would throw off the 8th congressional district, which is gerrymandered from East Memphis all the way up to Jackson, Tennessee, and it would throw the demographics off. So they're trying to bring that in from outside. Well, when you get through talking about cookie joints, pizza places, hamburger outlets, grocery stores, pharmacies, movie houses, and all these other things, nail salons, hair salons, you're talking about a town of 100,000 people. Big as Jackson, Tennessee would have to be built in 5 years. Some of the powers down here to get all the goodies from the city council and the county commission don't want it in Memphis, Shelby County, Tennessee, because it would cost too much. So they want to get several $1 billion in net profit by building a Jackson, Tennessee-sized town in 4.5, 5 years. They are spending a lot of money recruiting students from all over the state to go to special programs in engineering, science, technology, and math up at UT in Knoxville that will be of use to the electric car plant, the Ford plant, and also to the one that Cadillac is building in West Tennessee. Now, they are not recruiting students from Memphis. Forget these black kids that have gotten in that. They aren't even interested. They're going to rural hillbilly Tennessee. They aren't getting the white ones from here either. So this is all goodies. Meanwhile, Cadillac is going to be making upscale electric cars. And somebody just came up with a protocol on a new type of battery that can extend the time or the mileage between charges to up to 600 miles from that 80 to 200 something. Probably hybrids will be of value between now and then. So what are we supposed to do with these vehicles that are manufactured? Well, the dumb bunnies from Memphis and Shelby County haven't expressed an interest. So this stuff would get on a train or on a highway going up 40 northeast away from Memphis to get to New York, Baltimore, Boston on the East Coast, instead of just bringing it 40 miles down southwest, and putting it on these empty barges that are going back down to the port of New Orleans. When they get down there, these car-filled barges would get on these barge transports. They'd get taken to the Mediterranean. You could put them into Europe, keep going through the Mediterranean, then through the Suez Canal, and then into India, Pakistan, Japan, China, Korea, the Philippines, where there is a big market for entry-level electric vehicles. That's Ford. And then for the upscale ones that Cadillac's trying to push, there you go. But you see, nobody at this place is smart enough or enterprising enough to do that or think about it. Not one. But you see, the other thing too, Europe has been trying to get into Memphis directly. See, if you go to Boston, New York, New Jersey, Where Baltimore, you got to put up with pilferage. You got to take the containers off of the ships, store them, and then you got to run the stuff through customs. Then you put it on a train to go around the Appalachian Mountains going south west, and then you get to Memphis, and then you get it into the highway system and reroute it on other trains around America. Hell, you could get straight in from Europe here, transporting by water, which is the most effective and cheapest way to transport heavy bulk materials. But nobody here is trying to get that to happen. The largest barge unloading facility in the whole world is here on President's Island in Memphis. Are we utilizing that? No, it's underutilized because the idiots that run stuff here don't know about it, don't care about it. Too damn dumb to think about it, but they want all this under the table. And the racket they have here is, oh, wow, we whoopee. We have zoning regulations. Oh, wow, we whoopee. We have city planning. And if anybody is trying to follow the law, you have to get in an architect who sits there and draws up new blueprints if you want an addition to your store, your beauty salon, your church, or your house, so you can be in compliance with the zoning regulations. If you're one of these other fat cats, you don't need to do that. You just make arrangements with the city council or the county commission under the table, and you don't have to comply with all of that. They just change the rules for you. And there is no planning, no development. You have gentrification. Why the hell are the people that are getting paid to do the gentrification by the city not also required to accommodate the people who are displaced? Why is somebody not saying we need city planning where the people can get jobs? Why are we not doing something with these youth? It's Memphis and Shelby County Juvenile Court, not just Shelby County Juvenile Court. It's a small court. It's on the same level as small claims general sessions. But Memphis doesn't get involved at all of the city money that goes down there. Nobody gives a damn, but a whole bunch of it is in a sequestered, non-interest bearing series of accounts that used to be run through First Tennessee, now First Horizon. Somebody ought to go to jail for that because it's being used to leverage out other things. And, oh, wow, let's talk about that. What about the juveniles who are run through this exclusively privately run, profit-making entity known as Memphis and Shelby County Juvenile Court? You see, the more they F up a family, the more business they generate for their shareholders downstream. So why don't we just clean it up? Why don't we have the police department reach some agreement with the children and the parent or parents or the guardian and put them through counseling, strict counseling, and if they get through it, the charges just aren't proffered. So we keep these crooked charlatans away from messing up our children any worse. They don't handle stuff the way it's supposed to be. They mess stuff up to generate future business. If the woman really needs it and the guy can pay, he doesn't pay. They stall, and she gets all behind the 8 ball. If she doesn't need it and he's really struggling and trying to do right, they'll ruin him. And we've got a lot of people down here who have discovered, honey, that's FICA. No, it isn't, baby. That's not FICA. Well, what are you talking about? Juvenile court is taking out child support. That does nothing to take out child support. I got custody of my daughter when she was 13. Well, what are they taking out? Come to find out, damn, they're taking out child support. And the child is 42 years old with 3 children, been married 20 years. She isn't getting it. The mama never was supposed to get it.
Oh, my God.
So where is it gone? And then don't want to give it back. And then speaking of First Tennessee, it's not First Tennessee now. The city of Memphis, the county of Shelby, Germantown, Collierville, Cordova, Juvenile Court, City Court, General Sessions Court, Circuit Court, and Criminal Court all bank with what used to be First Tennessee.
Right.
Now, why is that important?
Mm-hmm.
Well, under federal law, your accounts have to be backed up by a certain percentage of cash on actual deposit. So if you're the one bank getting all of the cash from all of these government entities, you have a lot of cash on deposit, and what you can write out on accounts, loans, lines of credit, financing is enormously greater than those banks that don't. So you will notice in Memphis, you've got a lot of First Horizon stuff. And now you notice Bank of America's moved in, Regions have moved in, which are banks outside of the state that have deep pockets, Wells Fargo. But you see, you know what's interesting? First Horizon is no longer a Tennessee bank. It's not even an American bank.
Wow.
It's incorporated in Canada. So these dipshit idiots downtown are giving our money and all the interest and all the opportunity for the local citizenry to get lines of credit, small business loans, home improvement loans. All of that's gone out the damn window, and they're giving it to a Canadian bank.
I didn't know that. Wow, that's crazy.
So, yes,
I know the name
insane.
trade. I didn't know what they did. I didn't know that. Wow, that is wow.
And
Man.
you need to ask these jerk faces down there, what the hell are you doing? And by the way, you know what Strickland's nickname is with the other side of town? It's the popping fresh doughboy.
he is doughy. I ain't gonna he is Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
I almost vomited when I heard that fool say the solution to criminality is to give the kids reconditioned laptops so they can play video games. What the hell happened to your mind, fool?
Judge, how can people join your campaign? Are y'all recruiting volunteers and stuff?
The race is November 2023. Right now, you've got 400 some people on this ballot for this early voting, and the main election is going to be in August, right? So as soon as this dies down and the filing goes, we will have our treasury operating, and our election is 1 year, 4 months from now.
Okay.
That's 16 months ago. So the slogan is JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown.
Send Brown downtown.
Yeah, I'm smarter than these idiots that are running. I've had more experience. I've got more integrity. You can't find any damn thing that I've done that's crooked. I've been to jail for 5 years for one of these assholes down there named Harold Horn. They nicknamed Dirty Harry because the son of a bitch wanted to go to a goddamn golf tee off instead of dealing with a woman who was jacked up where they didn't even have damn jurisdiction because they issued a warrant for this 55-year-old woman with a rubber stamp, no signature, no affidavit of complaint, and no cause. What it was about is some guy that was stalking her when she wasn't but 19 years old, saw her at a mall and saw her with her nieces and said, one of them's got to be one of my daughters. So he goes in there. He's never paid any child support. He doesn't have a sworn warrant. He walks in off the street and gets processed against this woman for something that happened 30-some years before. So she applies for a job. And she's going down trying to get the job. They say, you got a warrant outstanding against you from juvenile court. What for? For some daughter. She doesn't even have a daughter.
Oh, Memphis Blues, boy.
Jackass bunch of fools. And I'm still mad at them. They had a judge from 1963 to 2006 who was dropped out of the 6th grade. He didn't even finish the 6th grade. And since 1982, which was 24 years before, the state Supreme Court said, you can't hear cases, buddy, even though you're the elected judge, because your education is so low, you can't understand what the arguments of counsel are, and that would deprive someone of the right to an attorney. And the first time I went down there, 2004, 5, I was with Legal Services. And I had 5 clients. I walk off in there, and it's a circus. First off, they don't want to let the black folk in there. So I just walked off in there any damn way.
Right.
Most of the black folks sitting out in the hallway. That's before they built the place up. So this bailiff is shaking me. Boy, the judge talking to you. I said, who the hell are you calling boy?
Mm.
And then the judge said, nigga, don't you hear me talking to you? I said, what'd you just call me? You goddamn honky ass cracker.
On me, judge. Like some
So I had
son
a tape recorder going.
Oh my God.
I had a tape recorder going. I said, you ain't gonna do a goddamn thing. You got $10 jurisdiction. I pulled out $100 worth of 10. And I said, by the way, I'm not on your damn docket. I'm down here representing 5 folk. I'm reporting you to the court of the judiciary. And I got the tape.
Wow.
And I said, I'll be damned if somebody's gonna get it. You pull that gun out, I'm sticking it up your mama's ass. You know.
They went on the court of law, judge. They went on the court.
That was a juvenile court.
What year was this?
When was
1974,
I think.
This is like after King got killed in Memphis. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, this was 6 years, 5.5 years after, and 6 years after. Matter of fact, the court had just been integrated for a little over a year.
Jesus.
Black folk couldn't even go off in there. So, I mean, I've been having a feud with those folk. Now, you find one of those idiots that's down there right now. Well, not all of them. There are a few select exceptions, a few, who have had the balls to stand up for somebody. You can't even get one of these punks to stand up, even if they're a lawyer, and take a case to take on somebody. Judge, we're not like you. We can't afford to rock the boat. Why the hell not, fool?
Yes, sir. I hear you loud and clear. You're giving us good instruction.
I mean, and it's gotten kind of ridiculous. They wanted me to be on a panel for the National Bar Association, which is meeting here next week. National Convention. So I said, okay, what's the topic? The state of black judges in America. So I'm looking at this and I said, sounds good. And then I read the list. They got 6 people. Only 2 of them, including me, 3 out of the 7 people, have ever been a judge. The rest of them doing this TV stuff. And guess who else they had down there at the lecture? Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey?
Yeah. I'm going, what the hell is wrong with you?
I can't write. He an expert on this. He got you on the panel with like people like you and then Steve Harvey.
Well, people like me, I'm the only one that's been on the bench for more than 2 years before they got the show. I'm the only one that practiced law for more than 5 years on that panel.
And this is our black lawyers meeting. This is the best we got, Judge. We in trouble. We've been in trouble. Is Big Crump gonna be Big Crump speaking?
Before he says much to me, he needs to try some cases instead of settling them. See, I'm looking at this. A friend of mine is Willie Gary. Willie Gary's 74. He's down in Boca Raton, Florida. He showed up, wound up convincing the coach he could play football. Every few years, he sends his alma mater $10 million. Willie Gary has 3 jet planes, a 55-room house, and a lot of other stuff. He holds the absolute record for the largest verdict by jury in American history that stood up on appeal. And it was from almost 40 years ago. The appellate courts upheld the verdict in 1983-84. It was for $750 million against the funeral home. $750 million. Now contrast that with the settlements everybody's so happy about these days. Like one in particular against a certain city for an atrocious thing for $28 million, but the city had a liability policy of $250 million. And, you know, I'm sorry, but don't shit get done by marching and protest and Al Sharpton. Oh my God, I gotta hold a hand. We shall overcome someday. Hell, ain't gonna be no goddamn someday. You get advances when somebody kicks ass in a courtroom and sets a precedent.
Mm-hmm. I think that will frustrate your hero Thurgood, that they'll get credit for stuff he actually getting done in court as far as litigation and stuff.
He was known as Mr. Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
You know why?
Tell us, Judge. Tell us.
He sure knew how to warm some head with a Louisville slugger. He was notorious for knocking shit out of folk who got out unruly with trying to mess with him. And he had a requirement. If you can't get, I'd rather not just have a Louisville slugger. Get me a 12 gauge pump and a couple of boxes of double aught, you know, just in case it gets way south.
He is from Baltimore. He spoke their language though. He knew.
And what do you say? Hilarious. Profound. I heard him live when he had that retirement ceremony. He said, Mr. Justice Marshall, can you tell us who your replacement's going to be? Who's going to get nominated? Yeah, I could. That would be ethical. So I don't want to comment on that. So, all right, sir, fine. He said, well, let me tell you something. Let me just say one thing. A black snake will bite you just as quick as a white one.
Well, I got to ask you, though, Judge. I got to ask you about the Roe v. Wade. Was this the right decision by the court? Because we talked about, you know, what could have been like the reason. But
I think it is a case and a circumstance that is highly charged emotionally, and I think both sides weren't on firm grounds on what they did. My concern about privacy is that a whole lot of the Fourth Amendment stuff about search and seizure is based on where you have a legitimate expectation of privacy. That being the case, the attack on so-called lack of constitutional privacy rights is disturbing to me. Now, personally, it's a woman's issue, and I'm not getting involved in telling a woman what to do with her body. And Lord knows, you know, I'm 75 years old, and for most of my adult life, I've been about the pursuit, acquisition, and enjoyment of nookie. And if I've been chasing pussy that long, I ain't gonna tell a woman what the hell to do with it unless she feels like doing what she wants to do with it. But now, personally, it is what it is. And it did not outlaw abortion. It just said there's no longer a constitutionally protected right of privacy. They left it to the states. And there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on as a consequence of that. So it's the American system. You get some ups and downs. But I do like what this court did to New York with the Second Amendment. And I think that is important because we have only to look at what we were talking about earlier, this young man who went in at 22 and gunned down this mad dog who was about to shoot that mall up.
Yeah. Elijah Dickens, I think that's his name.
Now, yes, a hero. I applaud him. That being said, one of the things that a lot of the day's pussies don't understand, and I say that with the greatest sneer and disrespect in my voice, is that it's dangerous being a free people. There is collateral damage that you suffer from being a brave man, and sometimes things slip through the cracks, but what is not slipping through the cracks is more important. One of the things about the Second Amendment is it says this keeps a totalitarian bunch of fascists from jumping in and trying to take things over and impose a tyranny. I can see that from the far left and some of the things they want to do about cramming this anti-masculine, anti-family agenda down our children and grandchildren's throats. And it's becoming very effective propaganda too. I don't like that. The other point is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the common defense. I'm thinking that maybe what municipalities ought to do is authorize some militias. Let's say we have retired first responders, we have retired veterans, we have good citizens who are willing to take the courses and assemble for drill once a month, as is the usual historical case, and who supplement or supplant the police in patrolling their own communities, so order and dignity where they live, and they take control and run the thugs the hell off the streets. Next thing, I want to take the police department that comes from the 1830s in England, from Scotland Yard, where Sir Robert Peel, an earl, set up a police department that is most responsive to the nobility and the aristocracy. So we get a police department that's a peace implement, where you switch it from that authoritarian model to one based on dependence. You have a Secretary of Defense, you have a Secretary of the Army, Secretary of the Navy, Air Force, etc. We need a Director of Police, an Assistant Director over homicide, one over sex crimes, one over uniform patrol, one over property, one over juveniles, one over traffic, one over theft, you name it. We can have that. So instead of having ineffective police review boards, civilian review boards, we have effective involvement of the citizenry in the direction of their police, where you have block captains, communications captains who communicate with the police communications equipment, a streamlined and improved situation that we need to, so you don't have to wait 5-10 minutes to get through 911, an expeditious transfer of calls. We need identification of those youth who might be a thug or might be a leader, and we need to give them leadership opportunities so they liaison between the police department and their homies, so that they become part of the process of law and order in this town. So it isn't just an alien thing, or we're zookeepers down there trying to keep the animals together or putting them in the pound.
Well, Joe, let me ask, somebody asked earlier who lives in Memphis, Peanut the Great. Who would you tell us, like, who should people look at as DA then? If not Warwick and your friend Linda Harris is not in the race, who would be a good alternative besides yourself? I think we can write you in.
No. I'm not practicing any more law. I'm way beyond that.
But is anybody
I've had enough of it, 50 years worth of it. So let me just say this. I'm an independent. One of the things that every ethnic group in America has done from time to time, except us recently, is just clean house, hold your nose, and blanketly vote for the opposition.
Okay.
Write your next door neighbor's dog in for DA if you have to, but Mulroy's out there.
Okay. Yeah, I saw him. Yeah.
The point is this: people miss their water when their well runs dry. So what we need to do as a people, just generally, and I know she's a Republican, but she is a detestable individual. The werewitch, as in werewolf. And hold your nose and vote for the opposition. You see, we have a problem as a people. And too many, and I'm not just talking about black people, I'm talking about too many people who are not at the top of the economic here. We always vote for the Democratic Party, no matter what. So even if they don't do a damn thing for us, they get our votes. Meanwhile, the Republican Party, no matter what they actually do, they don't get our votes. So neither party has an incentive to do crap for you. One, they're going to get your vote even if they don't do a damn thing for you, and the other one won't get your vote no matter how hard they try. So what you just need to do is cast your vote with another group just for the change of it. So they say, hey, this feels nice. Maybe we can get a little bit more of this. And the other party, oh my God, what happened? They all went. And you see, I have a rule of thumb. Anytime they insult you grievously, like take your booties to the poll or twerking for votes, it's like, oh, hell no. You come at me like that, you too goddamn stupid to be in office. Twerking for votes? Oh, come on. I mean, the woman is doing this, the state senator in another
Rhode
state.
Island.
Yeah. She claims to be a feminist, and she's upset about sexist men and toxic masculinity, but she wants to stereotype women in the worst way, sex objects, shaking the booty, and she wants to appeal to men. They're low base urges, the way she's put it many a times, but then she brags about being a lesbian, so maybe she's trying to turn the women on. But if you're trying to get somebody hot, wet, and bothered, that's not a good reason to vote for somebody. It's supposed to be about what's up here, what's your policy, what's your plan, what's your character, and somebody shaking ass trying to get your vote, they don't have the character.
All right. I mean, well,
and one thing I get upset about, God damn, do we have to break into song and dance at every damn opportunity? Every time something goes on, he's out there dancing.
Oh, Joe, I got actually too, like, we in this Memphis town, I don't know if you had a new Ernest Withers. I mean, you did know Ernest Withers, correct?
I knew old man Withers. When I met him back in the early mid-70s, I said, "Oh, brother," I said, "you're going to be a man." I said, "You know what? They're going to put your stuff in the Smithsonian." And guess what? Now they have a permanent exhibit in the Smithsonian Institution. And I'll give him some things most people don't know about him. When Emmett Till got jacked up down here in Mississippi, they called three people. A.W. Willis, attorney, Russell Sugarman, attorney, both of them deceased, and Ernest Withers, now deceased. Withers took 6 rolls of film, he told me, gave 3 of them to Withers and 3 of them to Sugarman. They didn't develop the film. Their objective was to get to Illinois, find a Walgreens, get them to develop the film and get it to the governor of Illinois, who could demand the return of this resident of Illinois. And that's what happened. Talked to Emmett Till's mother on several occasions, and she verified that. So when Russell Sugarman and A.W. Willis were getting the film out of Mississippi, 6 or 7 cars got shot up and burned up, and several people got wounded because the White Citizens Council and the Klan were trying to keep them from getting out of Mississippi. A.W. told me he got captured and he was tortured for 12 hours, but because of what he went through on an old-time Hell Week pledging Alpha, prepared him for it, so he didn't tell on anybody and he escaped. So, by the way, a little word up on all of the boule Negroes that like to do the Black Greek thing these days where they don't pledge you hard. 4 black frats, 4 black sororities, they started out as multiple chapters of a joint organization to fight American apartheid, aka segregation. And they made everybody hard because the objective was to see if you'd spill your guts if Sheriff Bubba got a hold of you and was trying to twist it out of you. So you got pledged hard. I know I couldn't walk for 4 or 5 days after I got through pledging back in the mid-60s. But they don't do that now. Now if you sneeze at somebody, oh my God, I was abused.
It's different times, Judge. I got to ask you about...
And people think it's all about stepping. Well, it's not, because guess who invented it? Me. I was dean of pledges out at in L.A. for the L.A. chapter, Alpha Delta out there, and Gamma Z we combined. And this is 1966, 67. And they had these frat games out at Cal State LA. They had Lakers and Celtics and all of this pro basketball players, and they'd come down, split up by squads on the frats they were in, and the games would be 179 to 164. There was one 212 game to 210. It was some odd games. So as Dean of Pledges, I said, me and Big Bob Cold, we're going to swing some mighty wood if we don't get entertained. But they came out with stepping. They had on some black capes lined with gold and, black top hats, and they were doing it. So everybody said, oh, wow, what is this? So it was during spring break, and all these folk had come in from the South that were from L.A., were going back to the Southern schools. So they took that. That's how they got the stepping started. So I started it.
So you started, you started stepping.
Yeah, I did.
I put it out there.
I did it. They got good. Now I've seen some interesting and spectacular moves, but hey, it ain't about dancing. It's about something else. The whole party routine was supposed to be a smoke screen and a camouflage so that everybody would just think it was a black partying Greek organization rather than a revolutionary one. So it is what it is. Okay. Now, so I won't go into belaboring the point, but it's a lot that a lot of kids don't know about now. And it's not all about partying. It's not all about bug dancing and singing. It's not all about Bojangles and somebody who sits there as an entertainer. See, you've got smart black folk, but you have no heroes these days. You don't have Malcolm X, H. Rap Brown, Stokely Carmichael. You don't have the brothers in the Black Student Alliance who are getting shot and shooting back. You don't have the Panther Party and other black student union members patrolling their neighborhoods to keep them safe and keeping everything orderly. You have crazy. And everybody thinks it's all about a party. So you get somebody that can sing. So damn what? If you took every song away, life wouldn't change for the worse. Maybe you can focus a little bit more and pay attention to the books, those magic books. See, they're magic. So you used to have to go out and look at everything and spend a lot of time eyeballing it. You know, what am I looking at? What does it mean? Now you can crack a book open, this magic book, and read about it. Oh, yeah, wow. Oh, well, yeah, that's interesting. How about that? But we don't. See, that's why this kind of stuff is entertaining to people, because everything that we've said could probably be put in something that you could read in 10 minutes, but it's lasting for an hour because nobody wants to read.
This is true. People are they illiterate, or they not not illiterate but illiterate. They don't want to read. But I got
illiterate.
Yeah,
they're ignorant. By the way, let me explain the difference. Ignorance is a condition reflected by a lack of information, data, analysis, observation, or experience, and it can be alleviated by acquiring any of these things so that you become more educated, you become wise, mature, and experienced. But now there's something else. It's called ignorant. Ignorant is a congenital condition that your ass is born with. And there ain't shit you can do about it because you ignorant.
I gotta ask you, because we know you talk about heroes. It's like everybody's being overexposed in the social media, but also the King thing. They're gonna come out with his so-called other stuff in 2027 from the National Archive. But I have read and I talked to people. They said that I brought up Withers because Withers, they say he was an FBI informant. They made books about it. They even said Thurgood Marshall was an FBI informant, Judge, that he had things he couldn't stand.
He was a cop. He was one of the first seven. He was one of the first 7 black cops they hired in Memphis after World War II. He'd been in the Army, and they had put him, trained him as a photographer so he could photograph the colored folk. He's damn good at that. But he was one of the first 7 black cops. So that's how he got the bad name, you know. But he was a good cop. He wasn't bad. He didn't sell anybody out. I know a lot of the information that he knew that he got buried with.
Mm-hmm.
So
what about Thurgood though? Thurgood had a relationship with J. Edgar Hoover, and he was telling on people.
Well, yeah, he wasn't exactly telling. He wasn't exactly telling on people.
Okay.
He had the same kind of relationship with J. Edgar Hoover that O.J. Simpson did.
Oh, really?
O.J.
Okay.
Simpson had an autographed 11 by 14 picture of him and J. Edgar Hoover, which, by the way, was one of the things that was being sold at that Vegas flea market, and O.J. alleged had been stolen from his home by LAPD.
Okay.
So you have to understand, Hoover was schizophrenic. First off, Hoover was a black man.
I heard that many times.
If you look at early pictures of Hoover, he looks much like Harold Ford Jr. He
like
doesn't look like liver spotted old white man. And historically, his family got run out of Louisiana for passing as white. The Klan ran him out, so he always hated the Klan. But Hoover did not have a problem with those folk who were smart in the law and stuff like that.
Okay.
He didn't have a problem with Thurgood Marshall. And Thurgood Marshall was somebody he tried to recruit, I hear, but he didn't.
Okay.
And besides that, I know some people, good people, who've been FBI agents. I have some good friends whose brothers or sisters became FBI agents. A little weird, but you know, it is what it is. It doesn't make you a bad person, but it's a place where a bad person can do a lot of damage. Now, J. Edgar Hoover was both gay. His lover was Colson, who was deputy director of the FBI. He was in for far too long, accumulated too much absolute power in his hands. He was a master of blackmail and surveillance, and he was extorting a lot of people that had a lot of power in the country. And like so many black folk, he hated his own people. And he did not look well upon the black church. He wrote ream after ream, pontificated after pontification, that the black church was a communist front. And right now, if you check out, sometimes they run this stuff on J. Edgar Hoover with the Smithsonian Channel, the American History Channel. They even acknowledge that he was a black man. And they get into his self-hatred and a lot of other things, too. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. And politics, paper, strange bedfellows.
Yeah.
But the gun did come. The gun did come from the FBI, right? That got King, right?
It was an XM21. It was a converted M14. The barrel was made by the Army Marksmanship Unit. They made 63. They made 62 rifles. The FBI got 5 of them on invoice. Late December 1967. Late April 1968, same month King was assassinated, the Justice Department ordered the FBI to return them to the Defense Department, who wanted them for the NOM. The FBI claimed they lost one.
It's always like that.
On inventory. And they also, by invoice, got 5,000 rounds of the special custom loaded ammunition that matched what they pulled out of King's body. Now, for those who understand it, for those who don't, I'll say it anyway. Ray's rifle was a 30-06 caliber Remington 760 pump action Game Master, just like a pump shotgun. The FBI issued 760 Game Masters in 308 Winchester and 12 gauge 870 Wing Masters, which are the classic Remington 12 gauge pumps. Now, what shot the bullet that was pulled out of King's body had not the rate of rifling twist that Ray's 30-06 had, which was one turn in every 10 inches of barrel. In other words, in 10 inches of barrel, the bullet makes one revolution. That rifling twist was one turn in every 11 1/4 inches. The only way to get a barrel like that in 1967 was to have a custom barrel maker make one. And the FBI got 5 rifles made up by the Army Marksmanship Unit that had these characteristics. And the one that was issued to the FBI in 308 Winchester, which is 7.62 NATO, had a rate of rifling twist of one complete revolution in every 12 inches. Now, where'd they get them? Well, Quantico, Virginia is possessed of an FBI training base, and also it has long been the sniper school for the U.S. Marine Corps. So what seems to have happened is somebody just walked over a couple of 100 yards to the sniper school from the FBI training facility and recruited 2 Marine Corps snipers who had just gotten back from the NAM and said, we have one very important task for you. It's to kill somebody we feel is a communist agent that is about to cause a lot of disruption in America. So it wasn't any gangsters. It wasn't any whacked out somebody wandering around as a loose cannon who would tell and squeal, but they do anyway, but there's nothing for them to tell because it doesn't lead anywhere. Now, my investigation suggested that there were 4, possibly 5 alternative scapegoats. Ray was picked because he was the safest one. Why? Because he wasn't even in Memphis. And interestingly enough, the Memphis Police Department's Homicide Bureau was adamant that Ray was not the gunman. He wasn't even in town, and they listed where he was. They'd been keeping up with him. So it's interesting. And then there's another rumor that they smothered him in the hospital. No, he didn't get to the hospital. He got the right carotid artery complex wrecked, and he bled out inside of 15, 20 seconds. So most of it was internal, since the main point of severance was inside the skin, even though there was a flap that got torn down. But was what it was. And there's some interesting characteristics about the bullet. First off, it wasn't a factory ammunition. The bullet they pulled out of King was an aftermarket bullet. It was commonly used for hand loading, and the FBI got 5,000 rounds of this ammo loaded with either a Spear or a Sierra aftermarket bullet, 162 or 168 grain soft point. It had a reduced velocity, and they put epoxy resin in the cartridge case to reduce the capacity, so when they dropped the powder charge down, it wouldn't detonate. Rifle ammunition is strange. If you put too little in it, you get an explosion.
That's interesting. Wow.
So you want to fill the case up with epoxy. You put a tube down in there so the primer will still flash up and into the powder area. And guess what? The bullets have traces of that epoxy, or the bullet they pull out of King has traces of that epoxy on the base. The FBI faked the test, etc., etc. The shot didn't come from the flop house, nor did it come from the bushes that are directly below the flop house bathroom window. The shot came from the fire station dormitory cafeteria, those narrow sliding windows you can see. The rifle was on some sandbags and 10 feet or so inside. Nobody was hanging out of the window, and somebody from the inside said, "We're coming out." The rifle was pretty much aimed in that direction. The caller said, "Okay, we're coming out." The spotter says, "Target appearing." The shooter says, "Acquired target." Spotter says, "Take him." Shooter says, "Sending," squeezes the trigger, dead man.
They made sure them black firemen was at the fire station. They got them out of there, and they got Officer Ed Reddick.
Yeah.
Ed
Reddick was on the roof.
Yeah, they got him out of there.
Reddick was on the roof. It was interesting. The timeline was that he was supposed to go over to Billy Kyle's, Reverend Billy Kyle's house for
for dinner.
to be fed. His wife gave us an affidavit saying the food was ready. It wasn't her. She got a call there would be a delay. That's when they found out that the 6 black detectives and sergeants wouldn't leave. So they got told if they didn't leave, they'd be disciplined, and they left, allegedly because there were reports that there were threats on their lives, not on King's. Then they found Ed Reddick. Well, Ed Reddick is a different story. They found this black fireman up there, and they told him his son had been badly injured in an accident. Go home and check on it. He found nothing was wrong with the boy. He said he was coming back. There was a delay on that, and he was told just take the day off. And then they found Ed Reddick up top, and he was doing overwatch, and he refused to leave. And he gave us affidavits saying that they sent 10 cops and 2 squad cars, and they double handcuffed him and took a rope and hog-tied his feet and threw him in the back seat of a squad car and forcibly removed him. So when they remove him, at that point, everything's okay. King is going to go with the group over to Kyle's home to eat, and he's going to go out the east side, but he gets brought back to the west side with the conversation of, Reverend, some of your fans want to see you out by the pool. There used to be a pool out there. And Kyle's escorts him outside of the door. Dick Gregory recorded an interview with Kyle's a few months before Gregory died, and about 1.5 years before Kyle's died. And he said, why'd you duck back in the room, in the door? He said, I didn't want to get shot. He said, you know there was going to be a shot. Well, I just felt like there might. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, then why'd you take King out there? You've heard that. He played it for you.
Yeah, it's like from the morning, like from the morning show, like when he was in Mississippi, and he said that Reverend Orange he was upset because he heard what Billy Kyle said. Because he said it on several occasions that he got to wait so they get a clear shot. I guess you can't hide certain things. It's very Freudian.
Yeah, now it's interesting.
I heard Cal was the MPD informant too, that he was Memphis police informant.
Well, yeah, but that was informant. They needed people to check on what was going on. And see, here's the other thing. In order for somebody to be hanging out in those bushes, you would have been able to see them walking up and down Main Street the way things were laid out then. And even the Flop House now, which is part of the Civil Rights Museum, has a little note down there confirming my conclusions that the window didn't open far enough to shoot out of the damn thing.
Yeah.
The scope
it had a tree too. It was a big tree blocking some of the view back then.
Big tree.
Yeah, they don't talk about that.
Smith gave us a statement before he died. He said Captain Smith said, look, when we got there, I looked out. Somebody directed me to the Flop House bathroom, and I looked out and said, no way, there's a big tree growing between the Flop House bathroom window and the Rain Motel. But an hour later, it was cut down. Yeah. And we found out there was a cut down order for 9 o'clock that morning. But of course, the sanitation department was on strike. Now, while we whoopee. One thing too, I talked to Ben Hooks about it, and he said, let sleeping dogs lie. I talked to Reverend Kyles about it, and he said, let sleeping dogs lie. I talked to Jesse Jackson, Reverend Lowry, and Andrew Young about it, and they said, we need to get to the bottom of it. Now, and they provided some interesting information. On one time, we all kind of exchanged notes about what we knew and some things that are, and by the way, what's coming out in 2027 is not going to be pretty.
Yeah, I kind of figured. It's folks that made it live King's life, they turn on them.
Some of what's already in the record ain't pretty, but I'm not going to publish it. Let history grind its wheels slowly, but some of it is not pretty.
So are they going to take his statue down in D.C. like they did the Confederate general, like Nathan Bedford Forrest?
I don't think so. They've already named a holiday after him. They'll cover him. But I do know one thing that used to be a bad problem. A lot of black folk, especially veterans of World War I, World War II, and Korea, would not have anything to do with the civil rights thing because, one, as many of them said, they weren't getting out on their knees praying while somebody beat them across the head when they'd been trying to kill Krauts or Japanese and getting subjected to gunfire and high explosive. They weren't going to passively get beat on. So they weren't nonviolent. And the other thing, they kept pointing the finger at Bayard Rustin, even back in the late 50s and the 60s. And what's his name? John Lewis, who was supposed to be his little protege. And I remember I was sitting at the kitchen table or the dining room table doing homework. I was just in high school, and my old man dropped the second section of the L.A. Times in front of me, said, read that and you'll understand why a lot of us don't deal with that civil rights stuff. So I'm reading. Last night, police on patrol in Pasadena observed a large car parked in one of the public parks. Upon stopping, they found Bayard Rustin, civil rights activist and known associate of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and two male white suspects, one named so-and-so and the other such and such. Police discovered so-and-so and so-and-so, one of the white suspects, sodomizing Bayard Rustin while he, Bayard Rustin, was performing fellatio on the second male white suspect, so on and so forth. I remember that, and just 2 or 3 years ago, they had a move afoot where the California governor posthumously pardoned Bayard Rustin for getting arrested for open lewdness and indecent conduct in public for that incident. And I resented it because I said, what about all of the straight guys and gals who in high school, college, and just out with the wife or the date got it on in the back seat and didn't get posthumously or while alive pardoned for this? What gives? But, that just brought it back. So that was one of the problems. Now, it's their right to do whatever in the hell they want. It's just sometimes they make it a little difficult for other people.
Well, Judge,
now they call it homophobia, but actually that's just flipping the script from heterophobia.
Right. Judge, anyway, I gotta show you. I gotta share something with you. This past Saturday was Attn Wells' 160th birthday. They got that plaza on Beale Street in honor of her. They did some groundbreaking on Saturday. I was there to cover it. I just got to play this for you and get your perspective, because Attn Wells, as far as I know, she was a hetero black woman, and she loved black men, masculine.
Oh, did they try to claim her?
Yeah, I'm sure. I got the footage here. I won't get your. And I respect these people. I might not be invited to anything else, but I got to show it to you, because I could. It surprised me, and I got to get your take on it, Judge.
Chairman of our Shelby County Historical Commission, and turn it over. Count 3. Push the shovel in, get a full shovel, and turn it over. 1, 2, and 3. Push it in and turn it over. All righty, there you go. Now, I want Chairman of our Shelby County Historical Commission to take a shovel.
So that's brother Dr. Lasimba Gray. I give a shout out to that committee for creating that monument for Attn Wells. They ran out the city when she was 29 years young for telling the truth and standing on black people and promoting Black Lives Really Matter. But I saw those flags. It threw me off, Judge. My mom said, those rainbow push. I said, they don't have nothing to do with Jesse Jackson coalition people. Those are LGBTQIA flags. I'm trying to say, how are they going to make Attn Wells a part of their queer hero?
I
don't understand that, Judge.
They have no shame. It's just, see, a lot of people, if you hadn't mentioned it, wouldn't have even noticed it, but their subconscious would have. So they would have seen that Attn Wells, and 5 days from then, they would have been saying, why do I keep thinking of LGBTQ and Attn Wells? Well, and then in 10 months, it's like, where did I hear that she was into that lesbian thing? Where did I hear that? And then in 20 months, it would be she was a lesbian.
Right. And I
See,
talked to the
that's
guy that judge. They were surprised. The people in that footage, they were shocked too. Some of these were ministers and other. I said, we know who signed those checks for that
well,
plaza. We don't have the final
who
say.
said that was when you know who said remarked on something like that, the late Dick Gregory. Remember
Okay.
when he was talking about he appeared on the Breakfast Club and he got
Yeah.
when he saw it, like, the hell are they doing with a damn rainbow flag right
They
over
do
my
have the
shoulder
rainbow flag. Yeah,
that
I'm
I
like,
didn't know
okay.
about it?
That
Now
Skittles
it's their
agenda is
business.
real, man.
Yeah, it's their. By the way, that was my term, Skittles,
Yeah, Skittles,
for
right.
them.
You came up, but Judge. Okay, I'm gonna ask you this.
But now, wait a minute. Let me say
Yeah.
this. Let me say this.
Okay.
They have an absolute right to do what they want to do in their bedrooms. Get your freak on.
Mm-hmm.
I draw the line when you have a public parade in broad daylight, lined with children, and somebody's out there swinging his bare dick around, and that's supposed to be all right. I have a big problem when you have 4-year-old, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, and somebody's trying to dress up like a tranny and recruit them. See, something's wrong with that. Now, keep your hands off the children.
If that was Bay or Rustin Plaza, it would make more sense to me. But I was just shocked. I mean, I'm not saying they don't have a right to exist. I'm just saying, why are you trying to claim Ida B. Wells as one of y'all's? And I read her diary.
The other thing is, what do you think would happen to somebody if they just had a doggy style parade and a bunch of dudes were up there swinging their bad dicks around on a float, talking about, I like to do it from the rear, or I like them on top? They'd be in jail.
Yes, sir.
But you got all these children standing around, and if they put on a dog muzzle and a leash and a chain and all that other stuff, they can swing it around all they want, and that's supposed to be expressing themselves. And
I just think your opinion on that, man. It's just wow. Okay.
I say, now, don't get me wrong, you got a right to get your freak on, but nobody has a right to start trying to sell sex and recruit 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old children. And you can't sign a contract with a child, but you're going to let this child sneak around behind the parents and get his dick cut off when he's 15, or get puberty blockers. And what's happening to my son? Why isn't he developing hair under his armpits? And, what's the matter with him?
But Judge, it's like the mass shooter, though, the profile, young white males that like the cross dress. It would sound like, even the Texas shooter, Uvalde, the Mexican, they say he was in that trans stuff, like he was in the cross dress. The
it's
one
not
in Highland
normal,
Park.
and they need some help. But but they have this mythology now. It's not. Oh my God! You shouldn't try to treat this like this is an abnormality. Well, let me look at it.
Okay.
Are we on adult hour, or is this restricted? Well, okay,
it's not. I mean, it is what it is.
I'll be polite about it. And I've told you this one before. What do you see every time you see a human? You see a successful screw.
Right.
Somebody got screwed. Somebody got birthed. Somebody got raised. Somebody matured. Somebody courted. Somebody screwed. Somebody else got born. Somebody got raised. Somebody became a grandparent. Somebody died. And the latest birth became a parent. It's a never-ending chain. It's been going on for a long, long time. So when you get a group of people that want to take themselves out of this loop, and there's a population problem, maybe it's birth control, I don't know. But then you see there's this other thing. Men have an obligation to protect and provide. Women have an obligation to mother and nurture. Now, if you mother and nurture, you can go on and be a corporate executive. That's your business. But take care of obligation, duty, and responsibility first. And if you're a guy, You can go and be what you want to be, but be ready and willing and able to protect and provide. You're not dealing with phase one. The rest of it is garbage. So when somebody opts out of that, I want to be something I ain't, and you get all the fluid gender and the special pronouns. Well, aside from screwing up the English language even more, you copping out, and you're giving everybody else who doesn't mind assuming their obligations and duties just extra work. And by the way, think of the pronouns. He, she, it is, but the he, she, it wants to be a they. So you're gonna say they is? That's bad English.
It's confusing me.
And no, like I told one little 9-year-old, I said, look, you want to be a little punk, that's your business. I said, but I don't even know your name, don't want to know your name. The only way I figure out your program is if you wrote it, tattooed it on your forehead, and then you'd be too damn stupid to even worry about it. So, excuse me, young man, is going to be he, and you don't look like a she, and you told me you're not. And if you want me to think of you as an it, okay, fine.
Well, Judge, you know what bothers me, Judge? I know Bill Cosby's birthday was on July the 12th. There is no black show on TV I can look at with my whole family, like the Cosby Show or Different World. We don't have no show. P Valley. I don't know if you ever heard of P Valley or seen it. My high school classmate and junior high classmate, Brandy, she's one of the leads. Her name is Mercedes. I used to have a big crush on her, but I have seen a lot more than I expected to see of her. And what they pushing is like, even when we try to look at a show about strippers, they pushing that alphabet agenda. Like, there's no masculine black men in none of these shows. Like The Shy, they are on Arrested Development. This is weird to me, Judge. There is no show with positive, strong black male influences, but it's a show called The Boys, right? The strongest male in the show is a black dude whose nickname is Mother's Milk, and they use somebody's love sausage to choke him out. Got choked out by a huge white penis. And he's the most masculine dude on the show, but his name is Mother's Milk. And he got emasculated.
Oh, wait a minute. I was that's par for the course. I was at the Paradiso last week looking at a movie, and I'm walking down the hallway to leave, and I see this poster for, a coming event. And it's the rear view, two guys. They're hugged up, and they each got a handful of each other's ass.
I can't right now, man.
I'm going, what the hell is this? And then, you know what I did?
Go back mountain too?
No. I went and I Googled some shit. Posters, movie posters. I didn't see a single one where there was a guy holding on a chick's butt cheek. I didn't see a single one where the chick was holding on to a dude's ass. I didn't see any crotch shots, male, female. But I saw all of this where they got these crotch shots and these movie posters where the guys are squeezing each other's packages and squeezing each other's behinds. I'm going, what the hell is this? And all these children running up and down because it's summer vacation. Right. And in the movie they had, well, let's see if I can remember, they had Buzz Lightyear or something like that, this animation thing, and then they had some pets or something or another, dogs or something, and then they had something with these minions in the life of Gru. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, all these children running around and they're walking by, and one of them grabbed one of his friends. It couldn't have been more than 11 years old. Said, look, and they were pointing, and the same one was holding on to each other's ass. And I'm going, what the hell is this?
Oh my God. Wow.
And did you see what they did with Thor?
They put him in a dress, right? In a dress?
No, they changed him into a woman. His girlfriend became Thor. He just became nondescript.
Movies. I don't like looking at these woke superhero movies. They messing up everything. Like the woke Batman that came out. I don't like all that wokeness in my superhero movies. I need some escapism.
See, you know what the superhero genre is about? Stan Lee and that bunch came up with,
Okay.
Dell Comics and Marvel. What it's based on is what the Romans and the Greeks did, where they took their gods and they put them in these storylines and they did great deeds, and people are supposed to emulate that. Well, they were taking these superheroes that they at one point transformed into semi-gods like Thor and Odin and Loki, or Superman becomes something of a god. Wonder Woman is half god, and well, her father's Zeus, and her mother was immortal, so amortal. So you get this blurring, and you make storylines where there's bad and there's good, and the duty of the good to take on evil and suppress it and suffer the hardship nobly that goes along with sacrificing. And even Superman faces Krypton or kryptonite every now and then. So all of them have their weaknesses, but they overcome, and from those who can deliver much, much is expected, and they try to show that. And the only thing where you can get masculinity, heroism, nobility, duty, honor, obligation these days is in basically one of these comic strip based superhero things. And then with Deadpool, they switched that so far into the gay column. They even have language about him liking to get it with a strap on.
Yeah, it's just like I be putting pause on these movies. I be getting into good TV shows, and they start doing all that swirling alphabet stuff. I said, I got to turn this off. I got to put pause on this. This is ridiculous. Cause I didn't expect that. It's just too much. It'd be too much.
They want to make it like everybody
Judge.
thinks 50% of the pop. No, they like Disney committed itself to making 50% of his characters that way.
That's ridiculous.
That isn't realistic in the population. The Census Bureau says at most the cumulative percentage in the United States for the LGBTQ stuff is 7.5%. 4.5% of that is the bisexual. It's about 1% lesbian, 1.5% gay, and just a little over 0.5 percentage point tranny. And they don't get into the pedophile thing, which I suspect is a lot. And by the way, see, gay folk aren't necessarily into the LGBTQ cult. As somebody said to me, it's like just because you are Islamic does not mean you are for ISIS or Al Qaeda. Or as I used to put it, just because you're Christian doesn't mean you were a follower of Reverend Jim Jones or drinking Kool-Aid at a church picnic.
Yes, sir.
You know, so a lot of I knew some gay people out there. The male ones weren't so bad. The problem was the lesbians. Man, they try to stab you in the back in a minute because they hated men and they hated black, straight men. Worst of everything. But one of the things that I'd hear from them is that they didn't like LGBT because it embraced pedophilia and that tranny thing. It's like one of them was joking. I remember he was at some staff meeting we had in his 5-star hotel. He drank a little bit too much wine, and he was talking about he couldn't stand the trannies because he liked men and he didn't want anybody fronting off faking. So, and that pedophile thing, a lot of them said, you know, they'd rather live the normal life, and half of what they get to thinking about going through therapy is justifying not feeling so bad about it, was trying to embrace what some pedophile had done to them. So they don't like it. So it's kind of crazy. But,
yeah.
You know,
it's life. Life is interest right now. But I want to address two more things before we get out of here, because I know you've been very generous. I got to ask you about, you knew Mammy Till Mobley, Emmett's mom, and now there's a push right now to get Carolyn Bryant arrested and to face charges, and people saying that she's too old. But hell, they should give her the Bill Cosby treatment. He was in his 80s. And they get these
Excuse me.
Nazi criminals.
Excuse me. Remember what happened with Medgar Evers?
Yeah, Byron De La Beckwith. He was in the 70s.
No, he was in his 80s when they got through with him.
And he died in prison. Yeah, he spent about 6 years in prison. But what would you?
Now, what my point is, there is a black district attorney down in Mississippi that's in charge of this.
Yeah,
he could go a long way to recruiting black folk for the Republican Party by proceeding. He could at least submit it to the grand jury and let them take the heat for what they either do or do not do. Plus, the other thing is, that's a murder. There is no statute of limitations on homicide. And she's certainly an accessory to the homicide. So that would make her a principal when it's a first-degree murder. And by the way, in spite of the Emmett Till anti-lynch bill, in my conversations with Emmett Till's mother on several occasions, she did not consider it to be a lynching. She considered it to be a flat-out murder. Now, under the Emmett Till anti-lynch bill, I think they insulted the young man who died heroically. The people that perpetrated it, when they were acquitted, gave an interview to Look magazine, which they got paid $2,500 for, and they said he was cussing them out, telling them to go F themselves right when they were getting ready to kill him. So he went out with an F-U on his lips.
Judge. You think that's true? You believe that's true?
Well, yeah, I think it is, from listening to his mother and from what they described when I read I read it when it came out. That was our class assignment, by the way, at the time, to read that thing. So I read it. And interestingly enough, they've taken that anti-lynch bill and turned it into a tranny rights bill. It lists 3 categories that are protected: race, religion, and for the first time in federal legal lexicon, sexual orientation. You don't have to have a lynch mob anymore. It can be one person. And you don't have to have a killing. It says killing, beating, or kidnapping. And I emphasize this as to the poisonous nature of this bill. Let's supposing some guy's at a club. He and his old lady have broken up and he's feeling depressed. And he sees what he thinks is a cute thing in a short, tight dress. Big boobs, and they're dancing and exchanging spit on the dance floor. And all of a sudden, he notices that Miss Thing has now got a hard on.
Mm-hmm.
The hell. He goes into a rage, busts it in the mouth, and knocks a tooth out or splits a lip. Under the new anti-lynch bill, that becomes a federal lynching because it's a beating and it only requires one person, and it's because of the person's sexual orientation. Now, let's take the race. That's obvious. That's how they slide it in, because if you didn't put race in there, you would pretty much move it out of the anti-lynch category in most people's minds, because they think black folk of being the victims of lynching. But actually, it's 2-1. There are a lot of white folk that got lynched, and you can see that in an old Turner black and white movie. Boys, you ain't getting this man out of my jail. We gonna give him a fair trial before we hang him. A lot of lynchings took place where white guys were involved out in the wild, wild west. So that aside, what about the religious thing? Well, there is Judaism, and you go to synagogue. There's Islam, you go to mosque. There's Christianity, you go to church. There's Hinduism, they got the 6-armed God. You go to a temple. There's Taoism, Zen. There's the Buddhist thing. You go to temple. But the interesting thing about the last few, they don't have a deity. It's a system of philosophy. So when you take LGBTQ, the cult, you've got a system of philosophy philosophy, but you don't have a deity, and they're trying to convert that into a religion and make it the secular religion of the United States of America, where you can impose it, and you can't put a cross, a nativity scene, you can't put a crescent and a star or a six-pointed Jewish star on the side of a federal building, but you can hang a rainbow banner from floor 12 down to the first floor. You can have federal employees painting DC sidewalks rainbow colors and the crosswalks, and put BLM and LGBTQIA plus down the middle of the street. And you can go to an American embassy or consulate anywhere in the world, you see the American flag, and then much against American law, you see a rainbow flag, which is often bigger than the American flag. Aside from pissing everybody off who says we don't play that, you don't see the cross under that flag. You don't see the crescent under that flag. You don't see the six-pointed star under that flag. You don't see the multiple-armed deity of Hinduism.
Judge, hello? Well, we lost Judge. Hope the Judge get back in. I don't know what's going on. It be like that. Hello, Judge, you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Yeah, well, I know you talked about that all that. Well, I want to ask with the Emmett Till thing. I think that the attorney down there, the DA, is being very disingenuous about
he could get a lot of credit. All he's got to do is go forward, and he picks up.
No, I'm just saying, like, he using the excuse that, but he using the excuse that the federal government didn't press forward. But it was an FBI agent that interviewed Carolyn Bryant.
It ain't up to the goddamn federal government. It's a murder in the state of Mississippi.
Right. You know, it was a memoir that got leaked of hers. And he said that constitutes as new evidence because how she was portrayed before the grand jury the last time, it was a black woman prosecutor that wouldn't go for it because they said that she was a battered spouse, and she never said that to the FBI guy. Even we look at her testimony from back in the 50s.
Wait, young brother. We've had too many black U.S. attorneys who had the moment of glory, the moment of rocking the hell out of the boat, the moment of making their claim in history, who let it go and evaporate it because they were punked out scared.
Yeah, though I'm saying I have dealings with him because it was a brother that was found hanging in Greenwood in a white, rich neighborhood. They said it was a suicide, but he wasn't there. They say he'd been dead for almost 2 days, but his body wasn't there that morning. It was found in the middle of the day, and I had to talk to him about it. And he didn't want no part of that. That was back in 2011 when I spoke to him about.
You know what it is? It's like when you are black and you get in a position to do something for your people.
Mm-hmm.
Not only will you be doing something for your people, you will be doing something for the whole system because you will be keeping the system honest and keeping its integrity high. When you sit there and punk out and say, oh, I'm scared. Oh, I don't want to rock the boat. Oh, I want to be a judge, or I want to get it with a big firm. I don't want to risk that hell. You're guaranteeing that you won't get it. Because the way to be a big-time attorney is to kick ass and take on Goliath and slay his ass.
So what would you do, Judge, if you would bring her, you'll try to get that warrant served on her if you was in this position?
Technically, the warrant has to be served, and technically the police, knowing of the warrant, can deal with their sworn duty and serve it independently. If he wants the warrant not to be served, he needs to take it in front of the appropriate judge and get it dismissed. Now, aside from the warrant, which is one sort of process, what he ought to do is ask the grand jury to review the matter and at least get a determination on the record as to whether or not there will be a true bill of indictment or a no true bill.
Mm-hmm. It's like you don't even want to do that.
He had a U.S. attorney here, who sat on his ass for 7-some damn years under the Obama administration on the promise that he'd get a federal judgeship and a lifetime career for the rest of his life, medical insurance, pretty decent salary, and good retirement benefits. He sat on his ass and didn't do a damn thing. The Republican Party had promised him that, and as soon as Trump got elected, they withdrew his name, and they appointed and approved a nondescript white lawyer for the position who got approved in less than 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
See, that being a good Negro is not good.
Yeah, it's disappointing, man. It's so many people that's found hanging, like the brother in Montgomery County in Pennsylvania. He was found hanging from a playground set in a white neighborhood in the same county where they prosecuted or judiciously lynched Bill Cosby. In the same county. It was like last month on the weekend of Juneteenth. This man found hanging in a neighborhood behind the police station, Judge. Behind the police station, and
let
they
me
said it was
say something.
suicide.
A lot of times, well, let's talk about the Mexican cartels down in Texas.
Okay.
They hang people from trees, but that's not really a lynching because that's just mob activity, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Organized crime. A lot of murders might nominally look like a lynching because they just set it up to do that and throw a lot of, it wasn't us. It was these angry white folk that lynched somebody. So I would suggest patience, and let's see what develops in the fullness of time as to what really seems to have happened. See, I've had some things that looked pretty bad,
right,
that may have had 1 or 2 people involved, but it was 3 people, but it was just some mob activity. Mm-hmm. I've had things where there was some gangs involved, organized crime gangs, tried in my courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have made it look like a lynching. Kind of hard the way they chose to kill the people that were targeted, but it was more than 1 person, more than 4 or 5, but it was a hit. See, sometimes there's a hit. Sometimes the message may be misinterpreted by the public as, oh, who did this? Is this a lynching with a warning? No, it's a message to some other people in the trade. You have to be careful.
But I'm saying, why call it a suicide when I'm saying it's about, how many black men I have read about that's been hanged since 2000 Mississippi alone from trees and telephone poles. Why call it suicide, and why not test the Emmett Till bill?
Okay, how about accidental death, which is what Shelby County is famous for? They used to have Dr. Jerry Francisco, who was famous for these accidental things. Remember Gridley's barbecue?
Yeah, yes, Judge. You told me they got
there was a little funny thing about money getting funny. Old man Gridley turned up dead on I-55 just near Shelby Drive at about 3:30 a.m. one morning. That's Wednesday.
Okay.
His general manager turned up dead about 3:30 a.m. one Thursday morning, the very next day, 1/8 of a mile away. And on Friday, his chief accountant turned up dead on I-55, 1 car wreck, 3:30 in the morning, no witness. Accidental death, tragedy, like hell.
Yes, sir. But I guess things happen. Things happen. I always tell people, you want to know about Memphis, what they do, look at the movie The Firm, that John Grisham movie with Tom Cruise.
Well,
organized crime town, right, Judge?
Memphis is known as the first-degree murder capital of America, but they're not talking about street crime.
Right. Yep. So I want to, I guess, leave on a positive note about manhood and manning up. This is such a feel-good story for me. I know you heard about this, Judge, about this young man down in Moss Point, Mississippi earlier this month. Corian Evans saved 3 teenage girls from drowning. They drove their car into the Pascagoula, whatever river down there. And he also saved the police officer trying to save the girls. He saved 4 people lives.
I heard about that.
But they don't really push this much. This is a black boy who's a man. He did a man up thing, Judge. So
yeah,
this will give his props.
Around, we shall overcome. He did something.
Judge, hello?
I'm here.
Yeah, but also he's 16. The fact that he saved the cop life too, the police officer.
I know. I'm just saying he's heroic. I like that. That's what young men are supposed to do. But you listen to the mainstream media, it's supposed to go, oh my God, I'm terrified.
Yeah, so well, shout out to him. I know he got a GoFundMe. They raising money for him to go to college, and I think people should contribute to that. I'll find a link and post it in my social media sites. But just want to give him a shout out. It was good to hear a story about a young black male doing the right thing.
Well, just last year they celebrated this guy up in Nashville who saved all these people.
The Waffle House, he stopped
Waffle House, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I mean, young brother too. So we
Well,
can do our share.
Yeah.
And then we have fools. Man, what the brother said to risk his life to save them white folk for? It's just what men do, fool.
And he definitely was raised right. In fact, he knew how to swim, because a lot of us don't know how to swim, which is unfortunate.
I'm a certified master diver. I know how to swim.
You be punching sharks in the face, Judge. You be punching them in the face. So, I mean, you a bad man. The most interesting man in the world, Judge Joe Brown. You the real most interesting man in the world.
Well, yeah, but it is what.
So shout out to that brother right there. It was good to hear that story about him. It really made me proud.
I enjoyed that. Now that I like hearing stuff like that. But see, you don't have many like that. Somebody would be crying about why they're trying to get them to get out there trying to influence these people to risk their lives. That's what men are about.
Yes, sir.
Protect, provide, protecting womanhood, promoting manhood. That's what.
Yes, sir.
Anyway,
we're gonna talk about before you got here, Judge. I just will make sure that we promote your barbecue sauce.
I'm doing these days. I'm getting ready to get into doing service, and I'm selling sauce.
That's right.
So Judge Joe Brown, JJB, barbecue, BBQ, JJBBBQ.com. Go there and order some. It'll be on store shelves in a little while, but you can get a jump on it and get it there. It's actually pretty good stuff. A lot of people say they've never had any better. Now, frankly, I like to take it and cut it 1/3 with beer, malt vinegar, sometimes red wine, and do what you got to do. It's good. It's good. And then we even have a hot Mary, like Sunday morning when you had a good evening and you're a lot younger than me. You need a Bloody Mary to get a little bit of the hair of the dog that bit you.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of using tomato juice, Tabasco, and vodka and some ice and celery, you take some of this, you cut it, you add a good dollop of vodka, some ice, you take a sprig of celery, and you have a hot Mary. Stuff is good. So remember, JJBBBQ.com, and next year, JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown.
Got y'all marching on us. Thank you, Judge Joe. In the words Duke Ellington, we love you madly. You keep on producing and pushing and keep it trucking.
All right, young brother. I'm out of here.
Peace and love. Thank you.
All right.
And that does it, family, for another wonderful, entertaining, educating edition of We All Be with the Judge. I had to hold it down for an hour, but I'm glad y'all stuck around. Y'all can get down with Judge Joe Brown. Send them downtown in 2023. JJB. If you like the words from Brother Herb, please spread the word. Let's grow our subscribership up and get them thumbs north. Get them up. Like this video. Tell your friends. We All Be TV. Support the movement, because we all be in it to minute. You can cash out your support. $R2C2H2. You can Google Pay, PayPal, and Zelle your support. Email r2c2h2@gmail.com. Vimo at r2c2h2. Also can wear Art of His Art, my James Street Europe shirt here. Jazz Lieutenant. Go below the description box on YouTube. Access our official Teespring shelf to go to our website. You can order some amazing shirts. You can also buy Art of His Art, R2C2H2.com. Working on giving like bigger prints and canvas, whatever. Everything's a work in progress. So thank y'all. It's been like, been on the air for almost 4 hours. So thank y'all for sticking around. I had no idea. Like I said, it's 2022. Anything can happen. Before I get out of here, I'm gonna read a disclaimer. Thank y'all so much for supporting this. We truly do love you madly. We love our people. We love to serve, giving you all the best that we got, that we all be. But the disclaimer, the views expressed by hosts and guests on the We All Be TV platform are not the official views, opinions, beliefs, or perspectives of We All Be News or the We All Be Group Incorporated. We All Be News is an organization that thoroughly believes in supplementing the information narrative that is usually supplied by the corporate news entities with those viewpoints and expressions which may be marginalized or ignored for a plethora of reasons. We are about informing the general public on alternative perspectives as it relates to news and information, and letting the general public be the ultimate judge in deciding on how to use said information. Informed citizens are responsible citizens. Thank you for your support, and that does it for this edition. I got more in store. Like I said, some Emmett Till shows coming up, some stuff from the archives, from the vaults over my years of podcasting. We All Be since January of 2007. Know that the best is yet to come. Thank you to the moderators and to the donators, those who have donated and will in the future, because I need some gas money and some eggs. But y'all take care of yourself. Treat each other kindly. Be lovable and patient on yourself first so you can practice that on others. Thank you so much. Good night. And thank y'all in the chat room. Very loud chat room. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. We love you all madly. Peace.